The court will come to order. It is Monday, August the 23rd, 2021. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, and Kerr County Commissioners Court is now in session. If you would, please stand for the prayer and pledge, which will be led by Commissioner Letts.
Bow our heads. Our Heavenly Father, we just ask that you please watch over all of us and help guide us in our deliberations. We will all try to follow and lead our lives in the way that you want, the way that you wish, in the name of Jesus. We'd ask that you bless this area with some rain. Areas have been getting rain, but other areas are still pretty dry. And we just ask that you just watch over all the first responders around the world. We ask this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. We'll remind everyone to please turn your cell phones off, or at least to vibrate. We begin every Commissioners Court meeting. Good morning, Commissioner. With the opportunity to listen to the public to receive your input. This input is limited to 3 minutes. We ask that you go to the podium, state your name, and share with us whatever you want the court to hear. This is not an output. We are not by law allowed to respond to your input at that time. If there's anything that you want to speak about that is on the agenda, we ask that you save your comments until that agenda item is called. So with that, I invite the public for your input. Is there any input? Yes, ma'am. If you would go to the podium, state your name.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Dixon. I'm a concerned citizen here in Kerrville, Texas. I have addressed the court over a year ago. I've also addressed Pam Burton at the Peterson Health. I've produced numerous amounts of research that states that fever is contributing to with the consequences of COVID. Fever alters the innate immune system, and whenever you treat fever with acetaminophen, it depletes glutathione in the body, which is the body's master antioxidant. Glutathione deficiency is the #1 cause of death with COVID, along with blood clots. MTHFR is the underlying cause of blood clots. I've informed the hospital of this numerous times, along with Deb Thomas. They're ignoring my information. I have all of this information available. I've given it numerous times, and it was also confiscated by Harley David Ballou the last time that I gave it, and it was never to be seen again. I want to know why they are ignoring this information, which is detrimental to the public's health. And not only that, but we've had numerous people die, and I'm not letting this happen on my watch. And I'm letting this known be in public court that this is not going to happen. This needs to be known that they are letting people die because of their treatments. And what they are doing is because they are treating people with Tylenol and treating fevers. I have numerous publications from numerous doctors who state that treating fever is not in the best interest. There is not one publication known to date that shows that treating fever has a favorable outcome in people's health. As a matter of fact, it increases mortality rate by 5% if you treat a fever. That is very well known. Also, treating with NAC is very well known. I've given them this information as well. NAC decreases mortality rate, and it also decreases the need for ventilation. NAC builds the glutathione in the body from the inside out and increases the body's immune system. This is available at HEB, any health food store, along with black seed oil, manuka honey, cinnamon, vitamin D3, vitamin K2, zinc, quercetin. All of these are things that will naturally build your immune system. Why is the public not being told about any of this? Why are we waiting until the last minute to where people are on their deathbed before this is being addressed? Why are people not being told preventative measures in order to prevent them from being to that point? May I ask anybody that who is in charge, if they're allowed to do that? Like I said, I've addressed them numerous times, and this information is being ignored. And quite frankly, that's bullcrap. And we all know this, because it's putting everybody's health at risk. mine, yours, and everybody else's in the community. That is all.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. Any other public input? Okay, then we'll move on to commissioners' comments. Start with Precinct 1.
I am feeling better. I was under the weather, and I got the monoclonal antibody treatment, and I'm thankful for it. And I think that they're doing everything they can locally to help us with our health. I don't know how many of us now at this point have had the virus, but
We can't ask.
we can't ask. It's almost unanimous. So. At any rate, I just feel
What
great.
is unanimous? Well,
The
you say
fact
it's-
that so many of us have had it at
Oh,
this point.
okay.
They're
I haven't had it.
I haven't had it.
Yeah, okay.
We
I'm
delegated
vaccinated.
it to
Well, then
Jonathan.
I won't ask the other two.
I announced I had it.
You did too.
That was great.
Very good.
I'm gonna save comments till later.
Very good.
Okay.
Precinct 3.
And just a bittersweet day. Commissioner Moser leaving. He's been a good friend for a number of years, but joining with another very good friend, Beck Gibson. So it'll be it's an interesting day. Like I said, bittersweet.
Well, as you can imagine, in Precinct 4, the rain has been spotty. I mean, it changes drastically.
That's what happens
from
when
one
you have precincts so damn big.
I know. You know, just right down the road, dry as heck, and the other's green as heck. So we could use some more rain, but we've been blessed with what we've had this year, so I'm thankful.
Well, the only thing I'll comment is, talk about rain in West Kerr County being spotty. I was on the mower yesterday, zero turn, for 12 hours. My grass is happy.
Yeah.
Just saying. Okay, let's move on to our agenda. We have a long agenda today. I apologize for this. Our court coordinator advised me that this is the longest agenda that she has ever prepared, 45 items. So be patient with us. It's going to take a little while, but we're going to get through it. Let's call item 1.1, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding the update, facility use, and other matters related to COVID-19, Delta variant, including hospitalization numbers and capacity. Deb Thomas.
Morning, Judge. Morning, Commissioners. So just kind of pass on some of the information I've been putting out recently. As far as the vaccine goes, the number of vaccines allotted to Kerr County as of yesterday was 20,100. The total number of vaccines administered, as both single dose and two dose, is 41,721. People vaccinated with one dose, 23,808. People fully vaccinated with 20,036. Vaccinations by age, ages 12 through 15, we've had 276 fully vaccinated. 16 to 49 is 5,543. 50 to 64, 5,154. 65 to 79, 6,655. 80 plus, 2,404. Vaccinations by percentage, for 12 plus, based on population is 52.11% of the 12 plus age group. Fully vaccinated, that was one dose. Fully vaccinated is at 43.8. Ages 65 plus is a bit 68.47 have received one dose. And according to DSHS, 61.51% of our 65-year and up have been fully vaccinated. As of Friday, I haven't checked the data for this morning, but active cases is 207. That does not include the 26 new cases we got on Friday the 20th. Recovered cases, 4,905. Deceased shows 97, but that does not include the 3 deaths reported by Peterson on August the 13th. Hospitalizations for Peterson Regional was 30 as of August 20th. The RMOC, or Regional Medical Operations Center, which gives us status for TSA, or Trauma Service Area P, for which Kerr County is a part of. That number was at 1,606, or 20.4% of the hospital capacity for the region is now COVID patients. And just for kind of an idea of what what the TSA has been putting out about the 93% in the rural areas around Bexar County, including Kerr County. 93% of those in the hospital are unvaccinated, and about 90% are unvaccinated for Bexar County itself. There's been a lot of talk lately about booster shots. Booster shots are recommended for moderately to severe immune-compromised individuals who've had the Moderna or the Pfizer vaccine, not for the Johnson & Johnson. If they are immune-compromised, they generally can wait 28 days before they can get their booster shot. For everyone else, 18 years of age or older, they must wait 8 months from the last or their second dose to get the booster shot. And that should be available sometime in September once the approval is made.
So Doug, booster shots are not available yet? You said September, is that what?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there any plan on booster shots, the disbursement or anything like that?
Not at this time. We're not planning on any more mass vaccination clinics.
Wouldn't that be a good idea?
We'll talk about it. I mean, it just depends on what the demand for it is, but there's plenty of vaccine floating around town at Peterson.
Yeah, but
and some of the other
that's the
places.
original vaccine.
They can
yeah,
get
but
their
not
booster
booster.
shot. They can get their booster shot at those places.
Huh? Say again?
They can get their booster shot at Peterson. They can get it at Walgreens.
You can get booster shot?
in
You said
September.
we're going
once
to be
the
available
approval's
until
done. Yes, sir.
September.
He's saying September.
Okay, in September.
In
So
September.
people that, because I've heard that Pfizer, after 6 months, Pfizer vaccine, it's down to about 45% effectiveness after 6 months. So September, booster shots should be available, booster vaccines available in Kerrville?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, good deal. All right, that's very good news. One other thing, you mentioned a while ago, 93% of the people in the hospital have not, in the general big area, have not been vaccinated, correct?
Correct. Outside of Bexar County.
Okay. How about in Kerr County, do we know, or Peterson, do we know
I
that?
haven't been keeping that stat, but it's been low. There's been
Okay.
no, I'm sorry, it's been high.
High.
Yes, the
Okay.
majority of them have been unvaccinated.
Okay. One other question. Are the hydroxychloroquine and some of those, are they available, do you know, at the hospital for people who have symptoms?
I'm not aware of that. They'd have to contact Peterson or the
Okay.
primary care physician.
Okay, all right, because I know at one time, the pharmaceutical, whomever at the state, was not allowing it, so I didn't know if that had changed, but you're not aware.
I'm not
Okay,
aware of that.
good enough, thanks.
Well, Deb, I'd like to clarify, I know Ms. Dixon expressed concerns about some medical treatments that are being administered. You're the emergency management coordinator for Kerr County.
That's correct.
You do not have any ability to prescribe treatments of any kind.
No, sir.
All that's done by medical
No, sir. And I
staff.
passed that, the information that she gave me, I passed on to Peterson.
And as far as what we can order people to do, you're aware as I am that the governor has stripped us of all our emergency powers. So we're powerless to do anything.
Correct.
Even if we could, we couldn't do it.
Yes, sir.
No, ma'am. You have to go to the podium to speak. I just wanted to clarify that so that people understand that we're at the mercy of what the governor tells us to do.
Correct.
So,
Also, Judge, I'd like to point out, Commissioner Blue talked about the monoclonal antibody. You can get it at Peterson, I think you got it at Urgent Care,
I did.
and the Department of State Health Services has 2 clinics set up, one in San Antonio and one in Austin as well for the monoclonal antibody
And-
treatment.
and so that the public understands that's a treatment that's available once you contract COVID to minimize the effects.
Yes, sir. And there's a list of criteria for folks that meet that criteria that can get them.
So say one more time what that is, because I'm not aware of it.
Monoclonal
What is-
antibody treatment.
Huh?
Antibodies.
Monoclonal antibody treatment.
And how does that compare to some of the other hydroxychloroquine and some of the other?
I speak from personal experience there.
Well, one is preventative and one is therapeutic.
Hydroxychloroquine is therapeutic.
That's a prophylactic.
Yeah,
There are some doctors prescribing ivermectin and different treatments
Right.
now. People have realized that we gotta have all hands on deck. And instead of deciding that this thing is verboten and this thing is okay, they're opening things up now just to see what's gonna help us. So I asked my physician about this treatment because a neighbor said he had had it. He's older than me, and he said it took a couple of days for him to feel good again. So I didn't feel very well. I took the test, and they said I was positive, so I asked him about that. Within a day or two, the next day, I took the treatment.
How long after that did you feel better?
About 48 hours.
Okay. All right.
48
Good.
hours.
And so the
Mostly
public
it drains
understands.
your energy, you know.
One of the reasons that that's being recommended by the medical staff and medical community is to reduce the number of people that get hospitalized because it's overpowering our hospital system. And so by being treatment like that, having an outpatient treatment, that just frees up more beds at the hospital.
Well, that's
and the
good
ICU.
because earlier, the Texas Pharmaceutical Association wouldn't allow these, Now they are, so that's great.
It's opening up.
Okay, good deal. Super. We're
Let
lo-
me make a general comment, just go to Ms. Dixon's comments a little bit, is that, as a commissioner, I'm not gonna give medical advice, period. I don't care if it's over the counter or
Right.
in the hospital or vitamins or anything, that's not my job. And I'm not a physician, so that's
Right.
just,
We're just discussing.
yeah, it's something I'm not gonna do.
Yeah. Okay.
I've always recommended that everybody either contact their primary care physician or the hospital.
Absolutely.
Good.
Well, we are still learning about it, obviously, after this much time. Our governor was vaccinated, then he tested positive, and 4 days later, he tested negative, so I don't know what to make of that.
I don't think any of us do.
So,
We're just
we're all
riding through it.
learning.
Okay.
Thank you, Doug.
Yes, sir.
Next item on the agenda is item 1.2, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action on a request from Centerpoint Area Historical Preservation Association to put two 40-foot sections of railroad rails recovered from the city of Kerrville at the depot in Centerpoint Historical Park. Mr. Welty? Yes, sir. Would you like to address the court?
Well,
You don't need to if you don't want to.
well, I would just, if you want me to be here just in case, and y'all have any questions or anything, but we've been watching the rails for a long time, in the road, exposed a little bit. And I went by there and I noticed they had dug them up. That was good, but they were trying to save them. Joel, I think it was Joel Minder. We were working on a road, was gonna just scrap them, so he saved them, and I just happened to be there, so I went and talked to him through talking to several people and everything, and so we requested that maybe, I think there's 4 of them, maybe the other 2 would go to the Heritage Museum or something that we're gonna build or something.
So,
I'm leaving that to the historical societies.
so what's the action by the court?
Don't need any.
We don't own that property, do we?
No.
No. I mean,
We certainly, we applaud you saving the rails, the
Yeah.
historic rails from our old railroad. We applaud wanting to keep them where the public can see them and access them. But we don't have any jurisdiction over the park.
No.
I'm a member of the Centerpoint Historical Society also, Kerr County Historical Commission. We didn't know what to do. Nobody knew what to do, neither Joel didn't, everybody concerned about it.
You've done everything you need to do, use
Yeah.
them.
We'll lay the
Display
rail.
them. Thank you.
Do we need to just pass that on to Joel, because they're in the yard there, and he needed to know.
I don't think the court has any jurisdiction over that. Just do it. I mean, not up to
Us
us.
and Joel or one.
yeah,
Yeah.
figure out how to haul them, just
Who's Joel?
He's over the city of Kerr, the street manager.
Okay, I think what we probably can do, Mr.
Joel
Welty,
Miner.
is we as the county can agree to take possession and custody of those rails to be used by the historical societies and associations. We can do that. So I'll make a motion that Kerr County officially take possession of those rails and present them to the Historical Association for proper preservation.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would think that the historical commission should take possession of it.
Well,
We'll get
and we
it.
are entrusting them to the Historical Commission. That's where I want them to go.
Them to be in charge of it.
Okay? I'm in my motion for this to be in charge by the Kerr County Historical Commission.
I'd ask the county attorney, does that sound good to you?
I've never been asked that question.
But so the rail.
It's
section
just stuck,
is-
it's high center, and we just need to get it off high center is what we need to
But
do.
the metal, the rails are owned by the city of Kerrville. Or that's where they
They
were.
were in the road and they dug up to save them.
Okay, so they're in the road.
They're in the
So we're
yard.
basically accepting a donation from the city of Kerrville.
Okay,
If it's on a city road, the city owns them, so we're accepting the donation from the city of Kerrville.
If they
That
so
doesn't
donate.
Look clear from this.
If they so donate. Right.
well, I was made aware of this probably at least a month ago, and there's been a whole lot of good faith effort made to preserve these rails.
Good.
And they're sitting out there, and someone needs to take possession of them. I understand the problem. It's been explained to me very articulately. And so, whether accepting a donation or what have you, somebody needs to take possession of those rails. And from my point of view, it ought to be the Kerr County Historical Commission.
I agree.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Just a question, and I don't know nothing about this. Do we need to help move them?
You just got Shane's attention.
So I got Kelly's attention.
Kelly said.
Well, they'll find it out, I guess.
Kelly's gonna need
I
a
would
long
think
trailer.
I would think that we need a letter from the city saying that we're
I agree.
hands-free, we're
Minimal.
done with them, you guys take, or to the historical commission. And from there, the historical commission, whether we have to have a court order or whatever it is to accept them, and then make it all clean.
So we need a chain of title
Yes, I think so.
and custody, so that the rails are in the city's custody, even though they belonged to the old railroad years ago. But they're in the city's custody, and I assume they were on the city's property as part of that right-of-way that they took possession of. So for us to act, Mr. Welty, what we really need is for the city to tell us that they want to give them to us, and then we'll take action to give them to the Historical Commission. We just need, we need to connect the dots.
Yeah, just have to have Joel send the letter.
That way it's all free and clear.
Then we know, then we have authority to do something with it.
Because the court does have the authority to formally accept gifts for the commission. So if that's what the city of Kerrville intends to do, and it sounds like it is, then you do have the authority to accept the gift. for the-
Can we do this subject to receiving the letter from the city of
I would
Kerrville?
say
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
I've been
I'd
told
go
that the
along
city's
with
willing
that.
to give up the rails. They wanted somebody to protect them. So I'll amend my motion to make this subject to authorization by the city. Kerr County will agree to take possession of the rails and to be put in the custody and control of the Kerr County Historical Commission.
And that amendment's okay for the second. Good.
Those in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Unanimous, 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Welton.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you've done to preserve those historic items. Item 1.3, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action on a request by the Hill Country Dispute Resolution Center to renew a contract with Kerr County to provide mediation services in Kerr County and for funding. Mr. Reeves is not here, and usually he doesn't come.
I've reviewed this, it's the same one we do every year.
It's the same one we do every year.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Baloo, seconded by Commissioner Letts, to approve the contract with the Hill Country Dispute Resolution Center. Those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Unanimous, 5-0. I'm watching the clock. I know we've got 9:30 items, and when we get to 9:30 atomic time, we'll go to those. The next item is 1.4, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to renew the 2021-2022 Retiree Medicare Supplement AMWINS plan. Ms. Doss.
Yes, sir. Good morning, gentlemen. For your consideration this morning is the renewal for the Silver Choice Retiree Medicare supplements for medical and prescription coverages. TAC is moving from their current United Healthcare to AMWINS. I understand that they have much better customer service. We have opted to continue with the current coverage levels, and the premiums actually have decreased for the retiree, $17.16 for the medical and $16.55 for the prescription. We will be phasing out this benefit. This will be the last year that it will be offered. We are in the process of gathering information for the retirees, letting them know that they're going to need to go out next year to the market and purchase this themselves. This is a Cadillac plan, so there are much less expensive options available to them.
I'll move for approval.
Second?
Motion's been made by Commissioner Letts, seconded by Commissioner Moser to approve the 2021-22 retiree Medicare supplement AMWINS plan. Any discussion?
I would reiterate that we're going to eliminate this next year, offering this, but the reason is they can get it so much cheaper in the marketplace. As an example, since I'm about to turn 65, I'm looking at these. I can buy it for $109 instead of the $200+ here, and for better coverage actually. So, anyway.
Any other discussion?
We have a second?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do.
We did. Those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Unanimous, 5-0.
Thank you.
Item 1.5, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to select administration project delivery service provider to complete project implementation of the American Rescue Plan Act funding administered by the U.S. Department of the Treasury and other federal or state agency. Callie Gargano.
So we went out for bid for a grant administrator for our ARPA grant, and this was in order to help us build some projects and also to help execute them. And we received 2 proposals, and at this point, they have been scored.
And this is the one that I'm asking that we handle in executive session because there's an offer to negotiate, which we want to take advantage of and sit down and visit with some of the participants. And so to do that, I do have a written opinion from our county attorney that it would be detrimental to negotiations if we talked about it publicly. And so with that, we need to have a unanimous vote from the court to go into executive session when we get there to talk about this. It's the awarding of the contract to administer the ARPA funds, which we have about $10.2 million.
And the vote by the court needs to be unanimous, and that deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the court's position in the negotiations. So that's the.
You made the
that's
motion?
the
I made the
I'll
motion.
second.
So moved. Second. Motion been made by Commissioner Blue, seconded by Commissioner Harris, for us to be able to go into executive session to talk about the awarding of the contract to administer the ARPA funds. Those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. And that will apply to, Ms. Gargano, does that also apply to item 1.6?
This is okay. So this is also going into executive session. It doesn't need to.
1.6?
Yes.
Okay, well, then I'll call that. Let me call
Okay.
1.6. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to enter into an agreement with the U.S. Department of Treasury to comply with ARPA award terms and conditions and authorize the county judge to sign said award terms and conditions. Ms. Gargano.
So this packet just needs to be signed in order to ensure compliance with the ARPA guidelines. It's basically saying we're going to submit our reports on time and spend the funds appropriately. And we also need to sign this in order to start submitting our reports. Our first report is due on August 31st.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Letts, seconded by Commissioner Harris, to approve entering into the agreement with the United States Treasury with regard to compliance with the ARPA fund terms. Any discussion?
Is there, these have to be approved each time? I mean, it's pretty broad.
But do you mean by each payment? Or?
Well, like each time each topic or each, like we're gonna,
By entering into the agreement, my understanding is that we agree to comply with their terms and conditions.
Right.
For all of them.
right. I was wondering, who's interpreting the terms and conditions? Do we have to go send back up to them for them to say, yes, this is in compliance, or do we just hope for the best?
We can look at their compliance terms, and we also have people that we can reach out to
Okay.
to make sure that we are in compliance.
Okay, that's.
And that's part of what that grant
Right.
administration
Right.
process will be, in order to make sure that we're doing that.
Right. Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. 5-0. Thank you, Kelly. 9:30. Okay, we're gonna move over, we'll come back to item 1.7 when we finish the 9:30 items. Well, we'll finish all the timed items. And so that the public understands when an item is specifically timed, we have to stop and go to that item when we get to that first available time to do that. And I'm gonna go to item 1.12. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding any changes to the proposed Kerr County budget for FY 21-22. James Robles.
Yes, we had a couple of minor changes from the last meeting, the last workshop. We'd added approximately 7,500 in payroll-related items for the Agriculture Extension Office. And we also moved approximately 53,000 in current year expenditures into next year's expenditures for the PDO office. This is related to the flooring.
And James, this is a tax rate of .4542, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Judge, I'd like to discuss the proposed budget, okay, and the proposed tax rate. And I think I mentioned in the last session, I don't know how well I could be heard on the phone, but let me reiterate some of that. I think it's recognized, or at least it's been discussed, that inflation is about 5.5% now, the highest in over 20 years. I think a lot of the economists are claiming that, are suggesting that that's going to continue. It may be transitory, but it's going to be a long-term transition. I looked at the budget, and my estimate is there's probably out of our total proposed budget, probably about $15 million that could be affected by inflation. I assume that salaries and benefits would not be affected by inflation, but probably about $15 million would be. So if it was 5% inflation, that would be about $750,000, okay, additional hit to the budget. And the current tax rate of 0.4757 compared to the proposed let me just do the first numbers rather than 4 digits, of 45 cents per hundred. That's about 2 cents, and that's about, if we kept the current tax rate where it is today, that would be approximately an additional $1 million in revenue for the county, and no increase, tax rate staying the same. With that, if we would take $500,000 of that and add it to what's in the budget of the $250,000 contingency that we have, that would be $750,000. So that would be hitting the sweet spot of where inflation could be. That would, I asked James and Tanya too, what's been our tax rate for the last 6 years? The average tax rate for that 6 years has been slightly less than 50 cents per hundred. So it's less than the current tax rate by almost 2.5 cents. So if we left it at the current as opposed to the proposed of 45 cents per hundred, I think that would put the county in a lot better shape to address inflation if it comes about. By putting it contingency, and Tanya can correct me if I'm wrong here, that enables us to use the money for less restrictive things than we have it if we had it in reserve balance. That can only be used for emergencies and other specific things. So it's not as easily fluid for us to use. So with that, I strongly recommend that we keep the tax rate where it is, not reduce it by 2 cents per hundred. So what does 2 cents per hundred mean to taxpayers? Well, for a $100,000 house, it's about $20 a year. For $1 million house, it's about $200 per year for the taxes. So average house is $250,000. So for the average taxpayer, $250,000 home, it's like about $45 for the year. So I don't think and a lot of people have frozen taxes, so it's not gonna affect them. So I would strongly encourage the court to consider leaving the tax rate where it is, have additional funds for inflation, which are gonna happen, okay? Everything's gonna go up. The jail of the food's gonna go up because of transportation. I think last time I mentioned too that a truckload of whatever it was, okay, being transported across the United States has gone up from $8 million to $12 million. That's a 50% increase. So we're all gonna see, and everybody sees it, you know. We go to the grocery store, we go to the service station, whatever. Inflation is here. And I think we've accounted for some of it as we went through the department's budget, and that's been well over a month ago, 6 weeks ago that we did that. And I think we increased fuel costs and things for some departments, but I don't think we did it sufficiently to account for what we see as inflation today. And so anyway, that's my comment on the proposed budget. I just simply say, leave the tax rate where it is at 0.4757, which is still 2.5 cents less than the average for the last 6 years. So with that, about all I can say.
So this agenda item is
Right.
for, not tax rate, it's for budget.
Well,
So your
but-
recommendation is though to increase contingency by how much?
$500,000.
$500,000.
Right.
And that, to one of you two, that is how much of a tax rate? Say $500,000 is how much? Or can you calculate it that quick? How much is 1 penny?
My recollection was that 1 cent was slightly below $500,000.
Correct.
430, 440?
Yeah, four something.
On the 1 cent, I would defer to the tax assessor collector.
Point and figure. That's what I was using my numbers, like $450,000 per penny, percent, or 1 cent.
So 2 cents is almost $900,000.
Correct, right. And that's the reason I was saying, leave it
So
where it is.
it's
That's
900,000.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I've been saying that we're talking about budget, so we have to have an exact number that we're going to
But
increase the
we're not-
contingency. We're not
not
talking
yet.
tax rate yet. We're not doing tax rate yet.
And so
Well,
James,
the
let's
tax
clarify.
rate is part of the budget.
But
That's
it's
how the
different, but it's a
budget-
different agenda item.
The budget that we have, okay, go ahead, Mr. Reeves.
With regard to your 1 cent, if that's what I understood, Commissioner, what 1 cent would equal in taxes, you would be looking at about 470,000. I think you had calculated something, didn't you, Ms. Shelton?
I calculate
I'm-
on the
I'm
gross amount.
Trying to do it in my head with.
That's ballpark.
With the difference between not counting the properties that have the tax ceilings, those being disabled and 65 and over, the difference between 20,086,000 and 19,653. My Tabby High math is a little fuzzy this morning. I apologize to the teachers.
Hook 'em horns.
What we went in and calculated was according to the Central Appraisal District, and we really appreciate the help that Sharon has provided, because with all of these different rates, she has jumped in there and redid the calculations for us each time. With that being said, there was an additional, just 1 second. It was somewhere around 986,000 is what moving the rate from the 45, 42 we have right now in the budget to leaving it at 47.57.
So that's about 2 cents, so about now, so 450,000. Judge is approximately correct, okay? About 450,000, yeah.
So 2 cents was 900 and some odd, so.
Right.
And just to clarify, so that the people at home watching this on YouTube understand what we're doing, this is about changes to the budget. approving the last minute changes to the budget. And that budget is based upon revenues and expenses. And the item that we're talking about right now are the revenues, the projected revenues. The budget that's actually before us assumes a no new revenue tax rate, which means that instead of it being 0.47, it's going to come down to approximately 0.45 for a no new revenue tax rate, correct? And what Commissioner Moser is advocating is not lowering the tax rate, leave it up at 0.47. And that leaves us about $1 million, almost $1 million more revenues than we have projected in this budget, correct?
That is correct.
And the present budget still has our fund balance at the end still being 29.5%,
Right.
which is comfortably above the recommended minimum of 25%.
Correct.
And so this would just be adding another approximately $900,000 to $1 million to the fund balance in the budget if we did that.
Not really.
If
Part
we-
of it would go into contingency, so that, only part of it would go into fund balance.
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
But if you don't spend the contingency, then it would roll into fund balance.
Right.
right.
But it's given us an additional $1 million to run the government when we have a comfortable cushion already. Is my point.
Well, the idea was to keep up with inflation, as you
Right,
just stated.
yeah.
Or to stay ahead of inflation.
Or stay up with it anyway, yeah. That's the reason I said 5% on that which could be, the budget which could be affected by inflation is probably ballpark $15 million out of the 40-something million that we have. So that's the reason I came up with the 750,000. So if we increased it by 2 cents, that's $1 million. If you put $1 million in $500,000 in contingency and $500,000 in reserve balance, then that would put us in pretty good shape for inflation.
Oh, it put us in excellent shape, but we're not, the county's not the only one affected by inflation. These taxpayers are affected.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So,
We're just provide services.
Right.
Right. That's the reason I said, Don, that, so what does it mean if 2 cents is gonna mean $20 to a taxpayer that's got a $100,000 house, is gonna mean $200 to a taxpayer that's got $1 million house.
Well, it just chips away and
I'm
here, a
just
little
saying,
bit here,
those-
a little bit there.
those are
I know,
the-
I
those are the
understand your
numbers.
position,
Those are the
but
numbers.
also looking out for people out here. I mean,
Right,
the taxpayer, you know, another $20 here, another $20 there.
I agree.
Anyway,
but
are we
this-
to that? We're not to that right now on this agenda item, are we?
But
No, we're not, and that's what I want to clarify. This vote would be on approving the recent budget changes. We're not adopting a tax rate at this stage.
Right.
That's a subsequent agenda item.
Okay.
But what you're saying though is, if I'm understanding you, Commissioner, is that you're talking about increasing contingency by 500,000, and that is this agenda item.
Right. That's correct. That is the agenda. Right.
Okay.
So
True.
So and then that will have an impact on, well, it may have an impact on how we set the tax rate. It'll definitely have an impact on reserve
Right.
balance.
Right.
And I don't have a problem with that part of it, of increasing contingency by $500,000. They give us some flexibility in case we
Right.
need it. But I'm not so sure I'm going along with
The whole package.
with the tax rate part of it.
Yeah.
And there is enough in our fund balance right now. If you wanted to increase contingencies by 500,000, that is an option that you could do without increasing the tax rate.
And so that would
Good.
come from where, Tammy?
I'm
Fund
sorry,
balance?
fund balance.
From balance?
Yes.
Right here,
Okay.
last column.
It says
Oh,
it would
okay.
lower our fund balance from 29% projected at the end of the year to 26,
Oh, okay,
28,
all right,
somewhere in
okay.
there.
That, I don't have any issue with that. Okay.
So are you making a motion to approve it with that addition?
I'll make a motion to approve the budget with having in contingency 750,000 as opposed to 250,000.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve the budget as presented with modification to increase the contingencies from $250,000 to $750,000, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And the other changes that James made.
Right.
Plus the last minute changes. that
Last
James
minute
made.
changes, Jim.
And so that's a motion made by Commissioner Moser, seconded by Commissioner Letts. Any other discussions? Those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Opposed? 4-1. Passes.
Okay, thank you.
Next item is 1.13. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to accept and approve the order setting the salaries for the county auditor and assistant county auditors pursuant to the Texas Local Government Code for an effective date of October 1, 2021.
Yes, you should have an order in front of you signed by the district judges for FY 21-22 salaries for the auditor and assistant auditors.
Move for approval. Well, I don't, do we have to approve it? I mean, it's ordered by the judges, by the district judge.
I think we had approval last year, or acceptance and approval.
Make most that we accept it. We're not approving it. We're accepting it.
Right.
And
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Letts, seconded by Commissioner Harris, to accept the recommendations from the district courts for the auditor and assistant county auditors' salaries. So that the public understands, the auditors work for the district judges. They do not work for the county, even though they're the county auditors. And that's a checks and balance system that's put into place to make sure that the money's being overseen by independent review. And the district judges do that, and they've recommended the salaries, and we can accept them.
And we approve their budget.
And we approved their budget. We did. Any other discussion? Okay. Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Item 1.14, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to accept and approve the order setting the salaries for the 198th District Court Reporter and the 216th District Court Reporter. Again, we're accepting what the district judges, those employees work for the district judges, they set their salaries. We've approved their budget, and they've sent us what they recommend those salaries to be, so we can accept them.
I move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Harris, seconded by Commissioner Moser, to approve the salaries set by the district judges for the 198th and 216th court reporters. Any other discussion? Those in favor, say aye or raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Item 1.15. This is a public hearing on the proposed Kerr County budget for FY 2021-2022. I call the public meeting to order. Is there anybody who would like to address the court with regard to the budget that has been presented for next fiscal year? There being no comment, I will adjourn the meeting and we'll move on to item 1.16, which is to consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to adopt the elected officials' salaries. Mr. Robles.
Yes, this was published in the newspaper a few weeks ago. Elected official salaries and any increases that they were allotted, and we're here to approve the published article and salaries.
So moved.
second with a question.
Yes, sir.
My question goes with Commissioner Precinct 2. The salary is based, and here, based on Commissioner Moser, but the salary for Commissioner to be Gibson is going to be different, correct?
Less.
It'll be less. So is it accurate to have it, I mean, I guess it's as of when we're voting right now, it's accurate, but it's not going to be accurate by the end of the meeting. Is that?
The new amount was put in the budget that we're discussing right now, because we knew the change would happen by the 1st of October.
Okay. I just want to make sure that what we're posting is accurate. So we're going by today, at the moment, we're voting on it?
That's what was published.
That was what's published. And it's accurate.
And it's accurate for right now.
Okay.
And then it's going to go to zero.
Then it's going to go to the base amount.
Oh, base amount, okay.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay, so I've got a motion by Commissioner Moser, second by Commissioner Letts, to approve the elected official salaries. Any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Item 1.17, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to adopt FY 2021-2022 Kerr County budget and take a record vote.
Make a motion we approve the budget as adjusted today.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Letts, seconded by Commissioner Moser to approve the budget as modified today. Is there any discussion? This is a record vote, which means that we go around and each person votes on the record. So let me call for the vote from Precinct 1.
Yes.
Precinct 2.
Yes.
Precinct 3.
Yes.
Precinct 4.
Yes.
And I vote yes. It's unanimous, 5-0. The budget has been adopted. Now we're at the point where we're right on time, so we're going to take a 5-minute break. Let's be back here, make it back at 10 o'clock sharp. We'll be in recess. Court will come back to order. It is time for us to start the timed items for 10 o'clock. Let me call item 1.18, which is a public hearing for a revision of plat for Cypress Springs Estate, Phase 2, Section 1, lots 57 and 58. Public meeting is now in session. Is there anyone who would like to address the court about this proposed plat for Cypress Springs Estates? There being no one, the public meeting is adjourned. Let's move on to item 1.19. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action for the court to approve a revision of plat for Cypress Springs Estate, Phase 2, Section 1, lots 57 and 58. Charlie Hastings.
Thank you, Judge. This proposal combines Lot 57, 1.00 acres, and Lot 58, 1.44 acres into Lot 57A, 2.44 acres. Access to the proposed lot will be from Morning Mist Point. We just had a public hearing. Nobody spoke. County engineer requests the court approve a revision of plat for Cypress Springs Estates, Phase 2, Section 1, Lot 57 and 58, Volume 7, page 172 through 173, Precinct 4.
I move for approval.
Second.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Harris, seconded by Commissioner Ballou to approve the revision of plat for Cypress Springs Estate Phase 2. Any discussion? And those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Next item is 1.20. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action for the court to set a public hearing for 10 a.m. on September the 27th for revision of plat for Spicer Ranch Number 3, Lot 16, W3-R.
Thank you, Judge.
Charlie
This
Hastings.
proposal divides Lot 16, W3-R, which is 8.99 acres, into two lots. Lot 16 W3-R1 will be 5.15 acres, fronting on Highway 16. Lot 16 W3-R2 will be 3.69 acres, fronting on Mark Drive. They are served by Aqua Texas. The county engineer requests the court set a public hearing for 10 a.m. on September the 27th, 2021 for a revision of plat for Spicer Ranch Number 3, Lot 16 W3-R, plat file number 17-02753, Precinct 1.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Ballou, seconded by Commissioner Harris, to set a public hearing for September 27, 2021 at 10 a.m. for a revision of plat for Spicer Ranch Number 3, Lot 16 W3-R. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Next item is 1.21. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action for the court to approve a preliminary plat for Creekside Ranch at Camp Verde, Phase 1. Charlie Hastings.
This preliminary plat proposes 103 lots, all of them greater than 5 acres each, with 6 roads. Primary access would be via bridge over Verde Creek adjacent to Ranch to Market 480. All proposed improvements in the floodplain must meet floodplain regulations. The concept plan proposing 179 lots on a 1,039.84 acre tract was presented to the court on April the 12th, 2021. They are dividing it into 2 phases, hence only 103 lots in Phase 1, which is before you today. There has been a water availability study done out there on this ranch. My understanding is they drilled 4 wells and did 2 studies based on that, and that both of those came out that there was water available for their needs for what they wanted to do on this subdivision. County engineer requests the court approve preliminary plat for Creekside Ranch at Camp Verde, Phase 1, Precinct 2.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Moser, seconded by Commissioner Harris, to approve the preliminary plat for Creekside Ranch at Camp Verde, Phase 1. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to have a little bit of discussion, if we could, on water availability. That, I know the tests were run, that was the biggest concern, in all the new developments in Precinct 2. This development, Center Point Village, and even some others that are on the horizon, water availability. So can you talk a little bit about the results of
Yes,
this?
sir.
Okay.
Please identify yourself.
Yes, sir. My name is Dan Mullins. I'm with Sutherland Communities, the developer. And as Mr. Hasty said, that's right. We did do a water availability test. And, we did 2 tests with 4 wells, and they're all good wells. They were all, they're not, 15 to 20 GPM. They didn't overpump them, but they were tested for 24 hours and very, very steady. The drawdown on all of them. If you guys would like the full water availability study that was done, I do not have it with me right now, but I'm happy to send it to you guys and to Charlie.
Okay. So that met the state standards, and Jonathan was talking about that a little bit in the past about the criteria and
Well, our rules related to this subdivision say that we deem you to have met the water availability, that's based on Headwaters rules, basically.
Right.
But deem you to have met them if your lot size is over 5 acres. So they've met our rules. What they did was above and beyond.
Right.
Just to show the potential buyers, I presume, of what the water availability looks like in this area if you can.
Yes, sir. We just wanted to, even though we didn't have to under the county rules, we wanted to do one anyways, just to make sure we had good water there.
okay. And there were some changes on floodplain or something like that from the concept to preliminary, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. After Mack and Hoover, our engineers, finalized the detailed flood study, the boundary of it changed. At first, you start off with the flood boundary that FEMA gives you. It's based off of old USGS maps. And so once they did the detailed study, it changed it a little bit, and it does show on the plat exactly where it is based on the detailed study. And so there was, I believe, Ken, tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's just one road that we moved north a little bit in order to create more area for the lots outside of the floodplain.
And still the plan is no plans to dam the creek or anything like that, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Good.
What's the number of lots in phase 1 again?
103.
103.
103, and phase 2 would be?
The balance 179 minus 103, so
76.
76.
Do you have a
76.
I'm showing 174 total.
Oh, you reduced it.
170.
Initially, they were going to do 179, so you made some of your lots a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because of the floodplain.
Okay.
There's also on your preliminary plans, you show an emergency exit. Is that through a lot that will be sold, or is that through some common?
It's through an area that will be owned by the property owners association.
Okay, so that's not through an individual lot.
It's the existing crossing that's there now, that's been there
Right.
for a long time, it's
Okay.
survived a lot of floods.
Okay.
And so that's the.
So that's going to be an emergency exit in
Yes,
case
sir.
of flooding.
It'll-
Okay.
It'll be through completely on
Okay.
property owners association property.
Okay. And so what is your schedule on development?
We hope to be back here for final plat in, about 2 months, Ken?
Correct.
About 2 months, and then to get started shortly thereafter.
Okay. All right. Very good. Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? We appreciate your thoroughness and the four test wells and water availability studies. It's very helpful for us to know that.
Thank you, Jay.
If there's no other discussion, those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Unanimous, 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Excuse me, what is your name?
Dan Mullins, his name?
My name Ken Kalashny, K-O-L-A-C-N-Y. Yep.
you. Thanks, Dan and Ken.
The last timed item we had this morning at 10 o'clock is item 1.22, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action for the court to issue a certificate of compliance for the Meadowbrook Retirement Community Manufactured Housing Rental Community Development Phase 1. Charlie Hastings.
In accordance with Section 1.03C of the Manufactured Home Rental Communities Regulations, the steps for approval, construction, and a certificate of compliance are the following from 1.03.c. Construction of a proposed manufactured home rental community may not begin before the date the county engineer approves the development plan. The county engineer or commissioner's court may require inspection of the infrastructure during its construction and shall require a final inspection. The final inspection must be completed not later than the second business day after the date the county engineer receives an affidavit from the owner of the manufactured home rental community that construction of the infrastructure has been completed in accordance with the approved development plan. If the county engineer determines that the infrastructure complies with the development plan, the Commissioners Court shall issue a certificate of compliance not later than the 5th business day after the date the final inspection is completed. An affidavit of completion was received on July the 2nd, 2021, and the court considered the request for a certificate of completion on July 12th, 2021. However, it was discovered there was an outstanding drainage issue at that time. The developer's contractor has modified the drainage, and a revised affidavit of completion was received on August 6th, 2021. It is attached. The county engineer recommends that the court issue a certificate of compliance for the Meadowbrook Retirement Community Manufactured Housing Rental Community Development, Phase 1, located at State Highway 27 in Hoodout Hollow. It is in Precinct 4. We do have the developer and his engineer here I believe they have a PowerPoint presentation. They would like to show you how we got to this point, how the drainage has changed since the beginning, and what they've done to resolve issues and concerns with the neighbors.
Very well. Mr. Hewitt, are you going to do that? Good.
My name is John Hewitt. I was going to summarize the drainage for the Meadowbrook Retirement Community. If you go to the next slide, there's 4 existing primary outfalls where drainage discharges the site. There's not a pointer, is there, Charlie?
No.
Okay, there's one on the far north is to the left on this drawing right here, and it's a small scale, I understand that. There's an off-site channel that crosses State Highway 27 on the far west side of the development. That continues and discharges on an outfall over to Johnson Creek. And then there's 3 outfalls that discharge towards the east. One of those, and if you go to the next slide, it's a little bit bigger. One of those is on the far northeast side, and no work has been done, so there's been no changes to that. It's a small drainage area. There's no changes at all, so that drainage area hasn't been changed. No detentions provided for that. On the far southwest side, most of that drainage is coming in from the off-site area. There is a detention pond just north of that.
John, let me interrupt you. Does anybody have a pointer that he could use? Anybody have laser pointer? Okay.
I want to ask if your orientation is the same. You said north is
to the left.
Does
Yeah.
it remain that way through all these, John?
Yeah, there's two exhibits on there. I tell you what, if you don't mind, I'll just point up here.
Great.
This is the offsite channel that comes out here. So there's one outfall there. This comes out that way, and then there's 3 up at the top. There's a little 5 on a bubble over there that is the one that has not been changed at all. So there's been no changes to that. There's 2 in the middle here, so that's what I'm going to talk about. Previously, when we came in, that may have been even a year ago, we had allowed a little increase in the peak flow in accordance with Subdivision Regulation 5.06 C2B, which for drainage areas less than 25 acres, we had an increase in the flow. Upon y'all's request, we went back and changed that so that there is no increase at all. And if you go to the next slide, this is what the pre-development flows look like on the 3rd column, and then the post-development on the 4th column. So you can see that in outfalls 1 and 3, there was actually an increase in flows, and we have come back and modified detention ponds to make sure that there's 0 increase coming out of there. 2 and 4 are the 2 that I was just describing, that there's been no change, no increase in the flows. So if you go to the next slide, after we've put in the 2 detention ponds that the developer increased the size of those ponds with, the new post-development flows are less than the existing flows. So I wanted to just emphasize that all of the runoff coming off this development now is less than it is right now for the 100-year event. The other issue that we had is we had to put in 2 detention ponds to be able to do that, an east pond and a west pond. The east pond is located very close to the property line. And what we had, this is an aerial view of a view of the east pond looking towards the property line. And the next slide shows what the outfall looks like currently. So we have moved the outfall pipe and the edge of that basin back 15 feet from the property line and put in additional baffle blocks and rock riprap and tried to spread that flow out to minimize any impacts downstream. So since July 2nd, the things that have happened is we've modified this outfall and we've confirmed that there's no increase in runoff off of this development. So that's the two things that I wanted to point out this morning.
There was a problem before. Why was it not changed when we were told it was going to be changed?
I guess I would say it's a miscommunication between me and the developer. So it has been changed now.
So velocity was a concern, so the baffles kill the velocity?
Correct. And not only that, we spread it out in a 50-foot length to help spread that out.
Before, it's what I characterized as looking down a shotgun barrel. The neighbor, it's right there close. It was, about 4 foot off
Now you got
before it got changed.
Now you got a scatter gun.
Yeah.
How do you,
It's more of a sheet flow by the time it gets to the fence line.
how do you define, what is a 100-year flow? How much rain is that? What is that?
It's
translate
about
into?
12 inches in 24 hours.
That is a 100-year rain here. And I want to clarify for the property owners that are here and the ones at home, Charlie and I sat down with the developer and with Mr. Hewitt and went over this in minute detail. And we discovered the mistake that was made. That's been rectified. And the developer actually voluntarily agreed to spend an additional $250,000 to accomplish this no increased outflow result, which we appreciate. And we appreciate all the hard work you've done to get this the way it's supposed to be, John.
Well, that's the requirement, isn't it? That you not change the flow onto somebody else's property.
Right.
It's a requirement, but our rules allowed for a slight increase, and we've since changed our rules that do not allow for a slight increase, but they were grandfathered under the old rules, but they went ahead and complied with the new rule as we modified.
There was a 5% margin, I believe, on this.
Yeah.
And they voluntarily did comply with that. Okay. Any other discussion? I have several people that have signed up to speak on this item. Who wants to go first? Okay. Mr. Gregory. I would ask that y'all, each of you identify yourself so that the folks on YouTube know who's speaking.
Judge Kelly, Commissioners, my name is Charles Gregory. I own Johnson Creek frontage property about a quarter of a mile below the Meadowbrook development. The matter before the court today is to consider the issuance of a formal approval of the Meadowbrook project. The same matter was considered at the July 12th meeting. At that meeting, several affected Johnson Creek landowners presented evidence of continuing drainage problems that had been recurring for more than a year. Excuse me. After much discussion, sometimes somewhat heated, the matter was tabled for further action by the project owner. A comment also was voiced that maybe we need a review by an outside engineer. Well, the group of landowners has engaged an outside engineering firm to do just that. The firm is Civil Tech PLLC of Bernie. We're dealing with Mr. James McGarr, who is a registered professional engineer and is a principal of the firm. His work was slowed because much of the relevant data from the copies of the plan that were available to us was unreadable. It was necessary to request clear copies from the county, which treated it as a FOIA request, and we did not receive the information until last Friday, about the same time this matter again appeared on the agenda for today. We expect a full written report from Civil Tech within 2 weeks, a public report, and before the next regular scheduled meeting of the court. But Mr. McGarr has prepared a few questions which we want to bring before you today. In order to get these questions into the record, I would now like to read his questions to you, and then we can elaborate. Question number 1. Why are there different runoff values for the same area on different reports and exhibits? One report mentions outfall points, but none are labeled on the maps provided. Need a clear comparison on points that discharge to neighbors to confirm state compliance with the Water Act. Number 2, reports provided do not detail runoff coefficient and composite values clearly. These appear to be low, which would explain excessive flows from the site. Ponds appear to be too small. Routing calculations were not provided. Number 3, property was divided to fall in the state septic loophole. As at a glance, state law prohibits unrelated effluent on slopes greater than 2%. Does the property have slopes over 2%? Number 4, a 2017 FEMA study shows the property in the floodplain. Per county regulations, base flood elevation must be calculated and shown. Why are no base flood elevations shown or calculated? The 2017 FEMA study is labeled best available data. Was it ever considered or looked at to verify accuracy? Mr. Henderson will address that further. Violations of water quality were acknowledged by TCEQ, and a subsequent notice of intent permit was filed. Has a notice of termination permit been filed with TCEQ? If so, why is there still brown water leaving the site? If the agenda is to certify completion of the property, why is runoff still not up to state and county quality? Are unprotected stockpiles of material still without silt protection? Mrs. Ellsworth will address some of those issues. Thank you.
Please state your name.
We'll pass them for you. Here you go. Just give them to us. I'll pass them.
I'm not sure everybody got
Okay.
Here's Stacy.
My name's Aubrey Henderson. I live above the project that's in question here. Those pictures right there, the first one is the FEMA update. I think, Mr. Hastings, you would know what that is. That's a 2017 update on FEMA. And then the second picture, the next one, the second picture, Mr. Hastings, is this the ones that we're going by on the project? Or is it the modified version of the 2017? You guys see that the 100-year flood and the 500 flood, that picture, the first one, if you look in the project itself, shows half the project's under water. On the FEMA, on the 2017, and on this one here, on this piece of paper here, it shows in the red, it shows 5 feet or greater. So 5 feet or greater in that project. You see all the roads have already been put in. All the stuff has been put there. That's 5 foot of water in the flood. I just wanted to bring that, Judge Kelly, I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that on the last page, back there in the back, that's where you can go to the base leveling engineer. You can go and you can look this up. So my concern is, I think, as I've always said before, Jonathan, is safety. Nobody in this room has mentioned the word safety. Now, we go ahead and do this project. It's down on Johnson Creek. We get a hurricane, as I've told you before. I'm going to be brief about this. It's going to happen. Is it going to be 7 years from now? It's going to be 11 when we have the 100-year flood from 1932. When Ingram washed away and Hunt washed away. So here's what we have. We already have a study here that's been updated that shows that this place will flood. It's y'all's decision. The word safety for those people down there. Do we have a way out for those people if it floods? There's only one way in and one way out. Can't get them from across the road because they'll be flooding. Can't get them from anywhere else. So when you go down into that project, you better have a way to get them out. So Judge Kelly, you know from living out in West Kerr, we talked about this before, we don't need to beat the dead horse up, but you know what that Guadalupe does. You know what Johnson Creek does when it cannot get into Guadalupe and you're washed away. So I'm going to leave you with this. This is fact. This is a 2017 update version. Correct? Have you seen this?
As base level engineering data.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's unofficial.
Right, exactly. But it is out there.
It's out there.
Okay. And let that be known to the court. It's not official, but that piece of paper, that warrant, is update FEMA data. Kendall County, y'all work very close with them. They do not approve any of these projects, but they're using the 2017. They are not using the 2011. So, appreciate it, Judge. Thanks a bunch.
Hi, my name's Melanie Ellsworth, and I live on 230 Dowling Road in Ingram, and I'm across the creek from the development. This was brought up last time that I've been here a couple of times on this issue, but there was an unauthorized discharge because it was a construction site. And what happened is the developer went and filed a permit with CEQ and got an NOI. And an NOI is a notice of intent. I'm going to be building something here and I'm going to have some discharge related to this construction project. They require silt fences, and at the end of the project, what's required by TCEQ is an NOT. Now, an NOT says we've terminated our construction project and we're going to pull up our silt fences, we've met all the standards, and we're ready to, sell lots. Our outside engineer, James mentioned, has this been filed? Asked, if you are at completion, has the NOT been filed? If it hasn't, obviously, if you pass it today, they have 30 days to file that. And at that point, I asked James, I said, they're going to say it's a construction issue. We're going to deal with runoff for years till these lots are sold out. Our engineer said that's not acceptable by state law. When you file an NOT, it is not covered to continue to discharge. So that those, I'm just going on the record saying that I'm concerned 1 week ago from today, we had less than a 1-inch rain and we still have discharge in the creek. If the fences get pulled up, the NOT gets filed, and you say we're at completion, there should not be any additional discharge in the creek, and if it is, it's against state rules and regulations. Also, just on a follow-up to Aubrey's comment on the floodplain, I know that the base level engineering, you just said, somebody that just got up, they just talked about a new detailed study. The last two items back brought up the floodplain. That was just talked about, and they said there's a new detailed study. So that was looked at. Our engineer says it's common practice to go to a new detailed study. It's not official, but it would be important to know what's out there and how much at risk people are in a floodplain or not in a floodplain. And you thanked them for their thoroughness. We're just here to be thorough. This is not, just to go on the record, it's not anything personal. I really like you guys. I like the efforts that have gone in to fix everything, and it's not a personal. I am a mom of 6 kids, and they're all grown and gone. I have 6 grandkids, and my new baby is the creek, protecting the creek, and I'm like a mama bear saying, let's watch out for this. So I'm just here in a representative. I represent many people that live on the creek that feel the same way I do. We're part of the Johnson Creek Collective, and we're just here to say, let's just get it right. And that's what I'm here to ask you to do, is get it right.
So, quick question I have. On the notice of termination, has that been filed or not filed, and there's been excessive?
I don't know, has the notice of termination been filed?
No.
No, okay. So it hasn't been filed, but we're here at completion, so I'm assuming that's about to be
Is there a
filed.
yes or no?
We're on the cusp of filing, but we want to get through this hearing today.
Okay. So it has not been filed yet.
No, I mean, if we
So
have the
therefore,
opportunity-
the silt and the runoff is still acceptable, or I'm confused?
So I'll read you the filing, I sent that to you. It's NOI permit, the one they have now. Post-construction discharges that occur after construction activities have been completed and after the construction site and any supporting activity site have undergone final stabilization. Those are not covered. So the permit they have now, post-construction activities are not covered. So what happens is they file the NOT, basically an NOT saying we're finished. And they're not, an NOT is saying the NOI is not effective, so then they have no permit to discharge into the creek. So in a month, if we have a 2-inch rain and we've got discharges in the creek, they have broken the TCEQ guidelines. And that's what I'm just here to say. We're right here, and we're right about to file the NOT, and we're right about to say everything's done. I'm just making sure we're all. Does that make sense? I mean, if we got a 10-inch rain or 2-inch rain or 1-inch rain last night, I mean, this is from 1 week ago, so 7 days ago. But I mean, next week if we get a 1-inch rain, there should not legally be anything in the creek. The TCEQ guidelines, state law.
Just a comment on that is, I'm not aware of anything in our subdivision rules, which are basically exactly state law, where we deal with TCEQ. I mean, there's nothing that I'm aware of. Charlie,
Water quantity, we deal with. Water quality, we do not.
Right,
That is
that's
a
what I'm
state
saying. So
issue.
the
That
water
would be
quality
between the
issue-
developer and the state.
Okay.
it's a civil issue that it's outside
You're
of
outside
some
of
of
it.
the other things.
Okay,
I'm not saying that about it.
I'm just bringing it to your attention. If you can't do anything about it, you can't do anything about it. I'm just making you aware.
Okay.
Would you be concerned with an NOT and you know, not keeping the NOT? But anyway,
I'm concerned, but
can't do anything about it. Okay, well that's just, I'm just here in behalf of the collective to watch out for that. I mean, we've had a lot of rain this summer and a lot of discharge, and I technically could have called TCEQ every single time that happened and taken pictures. I didn't. I let it go for the year and thought I'm just going to write it off as it's under their permit. But when the NOT gets filed and that is final, there should not be any discharge in the creek, and that's by that guideline.
I agree.
Okay.
Charlie, you want to address any of those concerns?
Yes, sir. I would like to address the base level engineering concerns. The base level engineering data, the entire Guadalupe River from top to bottom was studied by the state, and the data has been made available through the years. Last year in particular, Texas Department of Texas Water Development Board has a section that deals with stormwater and with flood, and they had some training that was available that I was able to go to last year, where they said, what can you do with this new data? And one of the things that they recommend that you do is that you use it when you're issuing floodplain permits, and as a secondary source of data. Now, we have to keep in mind that we already have an official study for Johnson Creek and for that section. So unlike the Creekside development that we just spoke about a moment ago, they were in a section of Verde Creek that had never been studied. They had to do a study, a new floodplain detailed study, whereas on Johnson Creek it was already studied. So the way that we're going to handle this new data, the base level engineering data, which in some areas is more restrictive, and in some areas it's less restrictive throughout the county. We've just been taking it on a case-by-case basis.
Charlie, what new data are you talking about?
The state of Texas modeled the entire Guadalupe River from one end to the other and put it through a HEC-RAS study to develop base level engineering and base flood elevations. So if you have an area that has never been studied before in your county, now you actually have some data that has been studied. One of the things you have to keep in mind is that the person who did all of this computer modeling had to make some assumptions and apply those assumptions uniformly throughout the entire state of Texas. They didn't necessarily, they may not be from the hill country and understand the hill country as well. I don't know if the assumptions they made are good or bad for us. But it's extra data that is available to us.
How does all that relate to the 100-year and the 500-year images that we see?
I think the base level engineering data that is new is showing that that area is inundated with more water than the 2011 official FEMA maps that we have for that area.
So how do we move forward as a county with the 2017 data?
When there are floodplain permits being issued for the individual homes that go in there, they can be in compliance with the 2017 data.
They can or must?
They can.
They must.
It's on a case-by-case basis. They don't necessarily have to.
They don't have to.
This court hasn't adopted the base level engineering data as the official floodplain maps.
What's
It's
the
unofficial.
motivation to apply for it?
I'm sorry,
What's the motivation?
the motivation to apply for it?
Yeah. If there's no teeth in it, is what I'm hearing you say.
There's no teeth in the base level engineering data. It's just another set of data. It's another study that has been done. It's a good tool if you're in an area that's never been studied. It's a very good tool. It's another tool in our toolbox for floodplain management.
So I want to make sure that I understand. Are the plans that we're being asked to approve today prepared according to the 2011 or the 2017 base engineering?
2011. Yes, sir.
And why is that?
That's the official maps that we're using, and it's an already studied area.
So it's an official, already studied area.
Yes, sir.
And how is that distinguishable from the 2017 engineering baseline data?
The 2017 base level engineering data is available only online. If you want to view it, you can view it online. And it was released to our community last year, and this project started in 2019 before that data was made available to us.
And
it's relatively new. I know they started it in 2000.
This subdivision,
supposedly 2017.
The base engineering level that it's base engineering
Base
data?
level engineering data.
Base level engineering data.
It's a first take computer run. Normally you would go in and maybe after a first run you start really defining some areas better so that you can come up with better results.
But I want to make sure that I understand, is the 2011 base
level?
The 2011 is an
baseline
official
level
study. The 2011 is the official maps that
That's
we have
the official.
for this area. Yes.
2017 is not official.
2017 is unofficial.
So that's optional to be used?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And this particular project began before that data was available?
Yes.
So these drawings have been grandfathered? Am I understanding this correctly? What are you telling me?
I'm saying that we couldn't have known about the base level engineering data until we didn't know about it until after they had already started construction. They already had plans. So they could have elected to take that into in account, but instead they were using the official floodplain maps that we have for our county, which today remain unchanged on that area.
In general, are there rules of disclosure for properties that are going to be built in flood areas?
they have a plat that shows where the floodplain is. Yes?
Everybody gets one.
Well, I guess
You're not just talking about the subdivision, each property owner, purchaser. Every one of these is different and separate.
I guess I'm not understanding the question.
I'm buying a piece of property.
Yes.
How am I gonna know that it's flood prone?
If it has been platted, it should be on the plat, and another way is to go to FEMA's website and see if your property's in the floodplain.
What I'm asking is for people that purchase these properties, how well informed are they? How well informed can we anticipate them being?
Just as well informed as I was when I bought a piece of property and took the time to go look and see if I was in the floodplain. Everybody has a responsibility on their own to do their own research and figure out where they're at.
Sure.
If they don't, and they start a project and we get a complaint from a neighbor that says, there's somebody in the floodplain doing something over there, can you check it out? Then at that point, we can go and address it and contact that person, and if they need a floodplain development permit, then they follow the regulations.
And that happens a lot.
It does.
Yes. My question is, or concern is that Mr. Henderson came into the court, I don't know, it seems like a year ago, I don't know how long it was, Aubrey, a while back, and anecdotally said that the creek had been up into that field where the development now is. And now there's a study that confirms what Mr. Henderson told us a while back that was anecdotal, and we really couldn't, from a standpoint of approval, rely on it. And so that's a concern to me, and I'm probably going to look at the county engineer a little bit on that, or county attorney, about us approving or not approving when there's something on notice of a different thing. I know it's not the official that our rules say, but yet we're on notice that another study conflicts with our official rules or the official 2011 data. But the second part of my question is, I know there's a lot of dirt work done out there. How does that dirt work impact the elevations that are shown on the 2017 study?
Did y'all raise that area?
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's a hard question to answer. I'd have to look and see what the difference in the elevations were and how it was impacted. So I will tell you that the 2017 data, that's unofficial. If it would have been in our favor, we couldn't have gone in and said, now the floodplain is different. We couldn't use that. You can only use the 2011 official information to delineate the floodplain. That being said, that's good information to have, and maybe it's worthwhile for us to go back and look at that.
Yeah, I think this is pretty dramatic.
Well, my concern through this whole deal, and I've told several people out here, including Aubrey, I know I did on the phone. My first concern with this was environmental. And our environmental department's pretty stringent. Sometimes I think maybe they're too tough, but it passed that sniff test. And then water availability, that was satisfied. But the whole thing, the one thing that has resonated with me more and more over all this time, going back to a year ago, Aubrey, was talking about the water coming from across the highway. And you've seen it.
It's a big concern.
And it wasn't so much Johnson Creek, but it was that coming from the other side of 27. And I told our county engineer last week, him and I were riding out to look at something, I said, you know what, I woke up at 3:30 last night, I couldn't go back to sleep, I was thinking about that. And that's a concern. We all believe in property rights, everybody in this room. And the owner has the right to do what he does legally. And I can tell you, if either one of those neighbors on either side of that property put in a rodeo arena and started having weekly rodeos, those residents in Meadowbrook would be the first ones complaining about the noise, the lights, the traffic, probably even the smell. But it would be that owner's right to do that. So that's what we're dealing with here. But that's the concern that's bothered me all along, is that water coming from across the highway.
Judge, can I say something? I know y'all need to move.
I need you to go to the podium, please.
Go ahead.
People can't hear you at home.
Okay, I'm sorry. Mr. Hastings and Mr. Hewitt, they understand 2011, 2010. I understand what your question is. It's pretty simple. Kendall County has already adopted this 2017. Check me if I'm wrong. But you are asking why we're not using 2017, and I understand what Mr. Hastings said, we're using 2011. That's the dark picture that I gave you there. But, as Mr. Moser said, new data shows that this project falls into the 100-year or to the 500-year where that flood is in that field down there that will flood one day. I'm just asking the county as a question, can y'all review that? Not today, a later date, to take in consideration for the projects y'all are doing, Center Point, Camp Verde, and all those others, that this is something that y'all need to look at, an updated version from FEMA. Is that fair?
Sure we will.
I think we can do it on every project. What I'm trying to say is that when moving forward, somebody comes in and wants to build a house down there or bring one in, that it probably needs to be elevated above that elevation that is available to us.
How about the point that was made of access in and out during the flood?
And I don't know what the elevations of those roads are.
Can I address that?
Sure.
You know, if y'all raise that area high enough, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm Chris Mundahl, I'm the developer. This is a manufactured housing retirement community, and when we were looking at that property, I went back to the 1932 flood, and we were checking the elevations for the worst flood on record. And these mobile homes, they're on pier and beam. The good thing about this, these slabs aren't going to be down on that grade. They're going to be a minimum 3 foot off the ground. And if in some of the areas that my goal was to keep it out of the 500-year flood. I was doing that voluntarily. I've done a ton of things voluntarily, and I'm going to continue to do that. So my goal is to stay out of the 500, not just the 100. And I did see these new updated ones, but we've made a commitment to this project, and I need to work with it. But the last thing I want to have is a bunch of flooded homes down there. Mm-hmm. When we looked at the riskiest area, it might be 8 or 9 homes out of 100 that are closest in the lowest levels. And I plan on bringing those up higher and doing some really nice construction and doing some split level stuff down there. So the homes and my people and the tenants are protected. And I mean, I'm doing that voluntarily, but we're going to meet the law here 100%, but then I'm going the extra mile to be even safer than that. Also, when we exit, you come straight up Meadowbrook Drive Trail, and you go up the hill and up to Highway 27. You'll turn right to go to Ingram. And if the Guadalupe, if it's flooding that bad, you're probably not going to be getting to the hospital. The volunteer fire department's probably going to be shut down too, because they're close to the Guadalupe. Everything's going to be havoc. I live at the coast. We have hurricanes come through. I live in flood zone. I've been in there for 35 years and understand what's going on. So we build pier and beam down there, and this has a pier and beam setup is what we're doing here in that flood plain. So I think y'all didn't know that, but that's how this works in the retirement community, in the manufactured housing community. We're going to be up on piers.
So bottom line, access during the 2017 data, based on that, is not an issue. That's what you said. Ingress, egress.
You know, I need to see it. I
Yeah.
didn't, you know, everybody else got a map, but I didn't. I will take a look at it, but I don't think it's worse than the 1932 flood.
Yeah, okay. And the second thing is, you said that any lots down there that are in the 2017 floodplain, that the plan was to elevate those properties
That is
so that
correct.
they're above the floodplain.
Yes, sir. And I have to tell my tenants, they have to buy insurance for their
Right.
homes or not. So
Right.
we're gonna tell them, you know, this is exactly what your plane is. This is a 2017, this is a 2011. You know, here's what we've done to protect their home. And they can buy flood insurance if they wanna buy it down there.
Okay.
So that's the best we have. It's a beautiful location, and, you know, we have a lot of people ready to come in if we can ever get this thing completed. Any other questions?
Thank you.
So the other thing is the questions that were asked by the consulting engineer and getting answers to those relative to taking any action by the court.
I think the first place, and I can't help it, folks, I'm still a recovering lawyer. I'm trying to find out what are the legal limits here. And I need to look to the county engineer and the county attorney to help me understand where we are with this. I think what I'm hearing, Charlie, is that this development project began and got preliminary approval and everything on the basis of the 2011 floodplain.
Yes, sir.
Or baseline, what was it?
Base level engineering.
Just the official, they began with the official studies of the Guadalupe River and Johnson Creek, or where they're at.
So this project,
They're following exactly what our regulations require.
and so as far as your office goes, when they file those applications, and it's under the 2011 flood data.
Yes, sir.
That's the data that you use.
That's the data that we use.
That's what I need to know. Even though we now know the 2017 data is available.
It's available.
Okay.
Yes.
And we may be able to incorporate that in the subdivision rules that we're going to be working on over the next few months.
We may be able to. And,
Okay.
and I'll add, I know you're trying to summarize, but when you go to look at this data, FEMA warns you, this has already been studied.
Yeah.
You sure you want to look at this new data? Because it's going to look different.
Well, then the next question is, does this development with regard to this floodplain issue, the 100-year floodplain, does this development plan comply and with none of these homes being in the 100-year floodplain?
Yes, sir.
It does?
Yes, sir.
Under the 2011?
Yes, sir.
And to get a permit to build on one of the lots using the 2017 data, then they will meet the 2017 data according to the developer.
Is that what you're saying?
They would need to voluntarily do that,
Right,
since
right.
they're officially out of the 100-year floodplain.
Right.
Unless we were to adopt the 2017 data, and then people would be brought in.
Right. That's what Chris said.
Yeah, that's the goal. I have to look at the data to find out
Sure.
exactly what we're looking at, but that's what I would like to have. Homes out of the floodplain.
Or elevated such that they're out of the floodplain.
We have the benefit of, we've got a man who's seen it. So, and he's been warning us, and he told us last year, and I listened when he spoke. I went back and I unearthed this same data as well. And I got with the developer's engineer last year and said, hey, I know that officially this is where the floodplain is, but I've got some concerns based on this data and based on some testimony that I've heard from Mr. Henderson that this area floods. And so we had those conversations a year ago, and of course we have official floodplain maps that we go by, and they have met the letter of that law. And I think the best that we can get today from the developer is that, you know, he's willing to do something to a higher standard.
Well, the legal question, and I'm looking.
Legally,
down here.
he's not obligated.
So legally, we cannot impose the 2017 information
No, sir.
on this development.
No,
plan. And if we do, we'll probably get sued.
And I'll add that I've been evaluating since this data has been available. Every floodplain permit that comes in now, we go and compare it to this base level engineering, which means it's not a full study. It's at the very base level. It's a first swing. I think it's wonderful data. I love using it as secondhand information to see, is there a problem here? Maybe this needs to be studied harder and so forth. But it wasn't available to me when they initially came in. So I didn't have the benefit of that. Everything's been hindsight.
Charlie?
Yes, sir.
We have our subdivision rules, and we also have, I believe, it's the FEMA flood protection order or something along that lines that we've adopted.
Yes, sir.
Can we adopt, in our subdivision rules, we can clearly say we want to go by the 2017, but that doesn't, but once we approve it, it's approved from that standpoint. Can we?
We could actually do it through our flood damage prevention order. We wouldn't have to do it through the subdivision.
But that's what I'm saying. So we can update and say through our flood prevention order.
Yes.
We've got to we're going to follow the 2017 as well.
Yes.
In which case, every home built then has to meet the 2017.
We could do that. The data was made available to our office a year ago. We've been using it since as a comparison. We've noticed some areas where there's big differences between a legitimate recent study and what the base level engineering is saying. And so we take it with a grain of salt. It's not perfect. It has a date of 2017, but it's not. That doesn't make it better necessarily.
Not necessarily better, but between the two, as a floodplain administrator, you can take the stricter of the two and impose that on any new construction.
Yes, sir.
But that's something that we do in the future. It doesn't apply to what we're doing here today.
No, I don't believe that applies today.
Well, if you're gonna set a home on one of these lots, yeah, it would.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
They'd have to,
Yeah,
it
and
can be
that's what-
approved here, but they have to comply with it to build the home.
Right.
If we make that change.
Right. Right.
So we started off with the complaint about too much water flowing onto the neighbors. That was a quantity issue.
Yes.
Has that been satisfied?
Yes.
We then had a velocity issue with the damage the water was doing as it discharged onto the neighbor's property. Has that been addressed?
Yes, sir.
And so with regard to the quality of the water, I understand there's an issue with that. Do we have any authority to do anything about that?
No, sir.
That's a TCEQ problem. Okay. So now we're talking about the floodplain. And they've complied with what the 2011 floodplain requirements require. So your recommendation to this court is?
I recommend that the court issue a certificate of compliance.
I have to look at my county attorney. What's your recommendation?
To follow the recommendation of our attorney.
And the fourth thing is, any homes built on this development can be required to use the 2017 data.
But not under this. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
but not
nothing-
under this
nothing
agenda.
new besides it.
Right.
To go back to the letter that from Mr. McGar, it refers to a 2% grade.
That's on affluent?
On the affluent issue. I don't know if that's an accurate number or not.
It's not. It's flatter than 2%.
But I mean, I'm not sure what the requirement is there. Anyway, I was wondering, but environmental health has reviewed the septic for this property.
Yeah. Yes, they did.
Yes, and they've approved. Okay.
So that, am I to interpret that Our environmental health department has signed off on this development as presented?
Yes, sir, they did.
Okay. Feel like I'm getting tied down here.
Yeah. And my last one, Charlie or Mr. Hewitt, the first two ones, items in the letter, which is runoff values are different on different reports and exhibits. That's just because, what's the reason for that?
We got a request on Friday for some data and provided it on Friday, what was requested.
But I mean, the statement here is that the runoff values for the same area on different reports and exhibits. The runoff values are different on different reports and exhibits.
Probably because I believe they're looking at data from 2019 when it was initially submitted and 2021.
Which is
the 2 years, and so there was changes made to the drainage to accommodate detention. The first set of plans didn't have detention at all.
And the final thing on the letter is the reports do not detail runoff coefficient and composite values clearly.
I don't know what reports this engineer is looking at. I provided one sheet as requested that was unclear from 2019, and I provided without a request, but I thought they would need it. The identical sheet has a different sheet number because they changed the way that they numbered their sheets. So they could say, hey, it's changed. This is 2021. I didn't want them looking at old data.
Right.
This was on Friday afternoon when I was requested.
But for some reason,
and I can only speak to what I've been asked to provide and what I've provided. I don't know if there's other data being.
Charlie and I talked about this on Friday. He said better information than what was requested. Isn't that true?
Well, yes. What was requested was outdated, and I said, wow, there's a whole new sheet for this.
It's just what was requested.
Right.
And you gave them the updated.
Yes, sir.
Well, as the son of a civil engineer, I learned a long time ago that if you get the same engineers in the room, one room, we'll get to the bottom of the numbers and what these problems are. I learned that, and that's what we did when we sat down with John and Mr. Mundahl. Mr. Gregory, you wanted to say something?
You asked for a review by an outside engineer. It's coming. We got the data Friday afternoon. Presumably he's working with it. He made notes from the information he got by email over the weekend, but he wasn't in a position to start work on it. But his report is coming.
What we're up against is once it's been certified by the county engineer, we have 5 days. And if it's been certified, we have no option but to approve it. And it's been certified.
Is that the law?
That's our rules. I just read that.
And the county engineer does not make hasty recommendations to the board.
That's the provision of the last sentence says we shall do it within 5 days. And our rules here are, I believe, verbatim out of state law. I don't think we made any changes out of that. We had a history originally, we had them a little bit different, and there's a lawsuit, and we went straight with state law on how we approve these.
Well, let me read it into the record. If the county engineer determines that the infrastructure complies with the development plan, the Commissioners Court shall issue a certificate of compliance not later than the 5th business day after the date the final inspection is completed. Is that where we are, Charlie?
Yes, sir.
Is that where we are, Madam Attorney?
Yes.
Any other discussion?
So the 5-day clock begins when?
after, it's after I receive an affidavit from the developer stating
you've
that he's in
received-
compliance.
Yeah. So my question is, when does 5
And
days
then I
up?
do the final inspection.
So
which
when's
I've done
5
both.
days up?
We're up.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so we must approve.
Well, let's go ahead and be specific so that's all on the record. What day did we get the affidavit from them?
Okay. Let me reread this. August the 6th, 2021, I received the affidavit.
So more than 5 business days, and you went out and did an inspection?
Yes, sir.
And when did you do the inspection?
I did the inspection following the 6th. Let me look at what day to be sure. That following week, it was either August the 9th or the 10th that I did the inspection.
And the 5th day has expired?
Yes, sir.
So
We
we don't-
couldn't get it on we had an agenda on the 9th. That's why this wasn't on the 9th. There
Right.
wasn't time.
Right. And so this is the first,
This is the first court
Regular
agenda that I
meeting.
could put it on to try to honor the 5-day request or requirement.
Black and white.
And I'll ask a question, Mr. Mundell. I presume you would prefer that not to wait, you would prefer that we approve it.
We cannot afford to wait any longer.
And the court doesn't have discretion.
What'd you say?
The court doesn't have discretion.
Right.
for those of you at home that couldn't hear that, our county attorney is telling us that we do not have discretion on this. We have to approve it. That's what all the sour looks are about.
I'll do the unpopular, make a motion to approve the agenda item as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Letts, seconded by Commissioner Moser, to issue a certificate of compliance for the Meadowbrook Retirement Community Manufactured Housing Rental Community Development. Is there any other discussion?
I'll make a general comment that, Mr. Mundell primarily is that, I think there's a high likelihood that we may adopt the 2017 rules, which will require compliance on any permits and any disruption built on that property.
Yeah.
And I'd also encourage that, any early development be in the upper areas if at all possible.
Well, we have to adopt the most current stuff, and it's amazing. It says 2017, and basically we're just now getting it, or it hadn't been out that long.
It's been in various beta stages for years. But again, it's just another set of engineering data.
Later today, hopefully today, I'm going to appoint Beck Gibson to be Commissioner Moser's replacement. And one of the top priorities that I have for the court is to get these subdivision rules updated and finalized. And we're sitting here today having to do something as distasteful as it might be, knowing that there's more current data that we simply cannot require to be applied to this development. And it breaks my heart to have to do that. But that's where we are. And these subdivision rules are seriously in need of revision. And I apologize. That's all I can do.
I agree with that, Judge, but the other part of it is if we adopt these rules, or to adopt them today, the new rules, next week we could come up with a new set of rules that would be better, and we can't, and it's a 3-month process at a minimum to update our rules. So, it's always going to be the case, and it's unfortunate. And the other thing I want to make clear is that we have made a number of adjustments to our rules in 2007 when they were adopted. We've changed many, many parts of those based on new data from the state or new data along the way. So these are not rules that haven't been looked at. They have been looked at a lot. The drainage was completely changed during that interim.
And there's always going to be a new study, and it's imperfect. The whole process is imperfect. You're doing the best you can with what you have to work with.
Okay. Those in favor raise your hand or say aye. Those opposed? And those abstain? I'm not going to break the law and vote against it, but I'm not going to vote for it.
Okay.
And it passes 3-1-1.
I will say this, and if you don't mind, give me a second, that, even though I voted no, in all my conversations with Mr. Mundahl, I know he's gonna go out of his way to put his best foot forward. And so that does give me some hope.
Let's take a 5-minute break and come back at 11:15. Let's come back to order. Okay, that was the last timed item. So flip all the way back over to 1.7. We get to go back and pick up the untimed items.
Yeah, I know. I'm on overtime.
Item 1.7, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve Kerr County investment policy and the broker-dealer list for Kerr County's investment policy in accordance with the Public Funds Investment Act. Ms. Holden?
Move for approval.
Yeah, second.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Moser, seconded by Commissioner Baloo to approve the Kerr County investment policy and broker-dealer list for Kerr County investments. Any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Item 1.8, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve a new juror donation form, adding an additional donation option of the Veterans County Service Office as per SB 456. This bill will be signed by the governor on June 14, 2021, and became law effective September 1.
Move for approval.
This means it goes into effect for us as soon as the governor signs it.
He's already signed.
September 1st is when it's effective,
That's the effective date of the
and
statute.
then jurors will have an option to make a donation to our Veterans Services Office.
It's just an option they have.
It is an option.
Right.
There are 2 other options on that form, I
Right.
believe. Maybe there's more, but there are
Two.
other options.
There's two.
Two.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Moser, seconded by Commissioner Baloo to approve, including the Veterans County Service Office on the juror donation form. Any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Item 1.9, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve monitoring renewal agreement with Beckwith for monitoring services at the Juvenile Detention Center. Shane Evans.
Good morning, gentlemen. Yes, it's time for a renewal contract with Beckwith to monitor the fire alarm system at the Juvenile Detention on 3501 Legion Drive.
Move for approval. Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Baloo, seconded by Commissioner Harris to approve a new contract with Beckwith for monitoring services at the Juvenile Detention Center.
County Attorney, have you reviewed?
I have
Thank you.
no suggested changes.
Okay. Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Item 1.10, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve hiring a part-time employee. Shane Evans.
Yes, sir. I'd like to ask the permission to hire a part-time employee. Beginning September 1st, I will have one employee that's going on FMLA, one of my custodians, and we're estimated to be gone for 8 weeks. And I do have the funds necessary to hire that particular person at a 14-1.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Letts. Motion was made by Commissioner Letts, second was by Commissioner Harris to approve the part-time employee for the maintenance department. Any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Item 1.11, at long last, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding SAVNS, which is the statewide automated victim notification service grant, acceptance and ongoing oversight. Mr. Peter.
This is a ongoing, it's basically a pass-through grant. It allows the jail to notify victims automatically when potential offenders are released. So James can probably speak to that better than I can, but we give the money and then we're reimbursed throughout the year.
I move for approval. Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Harris, seconded by Commissioner Baloo, to approve the statewide automated victim notification service grant. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Sorry you had to wait so long.
No problem.
Okay, let's move down to item 1.23. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to recommend Charlie Hastings as the voting member of Region 11 Guadalupe Regional Flood Planning Group.
I put this on the agenda, and Charlie, I think, has begrudgingly agreed to serve. Kerr County had 2 members on this. Ray Buck is one, and the other was Joseph McDaniel.
I've been an alternate for both of them, and I've attended quite a few of the meetings. But I think that my feeling is that Charlie Hastings has the best chance of getting approval by that board. He fits the requirement, I think, of a water utility based on his experience primarily with the city of Kerrville and certainly with the wastewater project that we're working on the wastewater side. So I think he's qualified. I think it's really important that Kerr County keep another representative on this. It's been a bit frustrating, the lack of input that Kendall and Kerr County have had into this process so far. As an example, I was at a meeting 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, mentioned that we had 5 different programs that we would like to submit for funding by the end of this month, and they have not let anyone, myself or anyone in Kerr County, know how to submit these 5 projects. And so anyway, I think it's really important that we keep somebody. I think Charlie's will do a really good job.
I think that's the best chance as opposed to somebody from the court.
Yes, I think that person has a better chance than someone from the court.
Okay.
Which would give us
It'll give us
3.
two. No, it'll give us 2. It'll
Two.
just be 2.
Oh,
Because Joseph McDaniel retired
I
from,
got
or didn't retire. He got transferred with Aqua,
Okay.
Texas, and I think Charlie is a really good fit.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we recommend and authorize the county judge to write a letter of recommendation for Charlie Hastings to be the representative for Region 11 wastewater, or not wastewater, water utilities interest group.
Flip.
Okay, motion is made by Commissioner Letts, seconded by Commissioner Harris to appoint Charlie Hastings as the voting member of Region 11 Guadalupe Regional Flood Planning Group. Any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Item 1.24, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to take a record vote on the proposed 2021 Kerr County tax rate. This will be a combined tax rate for Kerr County and lateral roads. Bob Reeves.
Good morning again. Honestly, I believe it's up to the court to decide what tax rate you would like to propose for the adoption at a future date. I'm here to answer any questions. I've presented you with the handouts earlier of some scenarios, and I'm available for questions.
I'm okay with the tax rate as proposed in light of the fact that we're going to increase the contingency by $500,000.
The no new revenue. Right?
Yeah, the no new revenue. I will point out that that's less than the average that we've had for the last 6 years, which is okay. The lower tax rate is good. And I would remember that the court probably about 3 or 4 years ago, said probably to stay ahead of things, we probably ought to increase the tax rate by $0.01 per year. So we're not doing that. We're going the other direction. But anytime we can do that and still make ends meet, I'm okay with it.
The
So
appraisals are going through the roof.
right, precisely. So therefore, I'll make a motion that we adopt the tax rate.
If I may, Commissioner,
Okay.
your motion needs to be to adopt the no new revenue rate of .4542, which is a combination of maintenance and operations of .3928 per $100 valuation, a debt service of .033 per $100 valuation, and the lateral road fund would be .0296 per $100 valuation.
Good, that's exactly what I was going
I
to say.
thought that's what you were going to say, Commissioner.
I think lateral roads is at .0284.
I stand corrected. I looked at the one and it would be .0284.
Good, yeah.
And I thought that's what
That's
you
what I
meant.
meant, yeah.
Second.
Okay.
And it does need to be a record vote, Judge.
Okay. Then, motion was made by Commissioner Moser, seconded by Commissioner Letts.
No, Harris.
Harris?
Either one.
I heard it on this side of the room.
To your left.
To adopt a combined tax rate of .4542 cents per $100 valuation, with the M&O to be .3928 with M&O being maintenance and operation, and debt service to be .033, and lateral roads to be .0284.
Correct.
Did I get those numbers correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any discussion?
I'll just make a note that this is slightly over a 2-cent decrease in tax rate.
Good point to make, and less than what the 6-year average has been. So good job.
But again, I want to clarify what we've got, Mr. Reeves here, because sometimes I don't say this exactly right, but I want to make sure I get it said correctly so the public understands that the no new revenue rate that we're adopting means that we're actually charging about the same taxes as we have before. Is that correct?
On the same properties.
On the same properties.
That is correct.
And even though the tax rate goes down, we're not cutting taxes, we're cutting a tax rate.
That is correct.
Okay. It's always difficult to explain, but I just want to take one more stab at it so the public understands that while the tax rate is going down, the taxes are not. Okay, those in favor, raise your hand.
I'm sorry.
Oh, record vote.
Record vote.
Let's start at the other end. Precinct 4.
Okay. Yes.
3.
Yes.
2.
Yes.
1.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Unanimous, 5-0. Thanks for walking us through that. But you're going to be up here for a while.
Yeah.
1.25, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to set the date and time to hold a public hearing for the 2021 tax rate for Kerr County and lateral roads.
Judge, by proposing a no new revenue rate, the court is not required to hold a public hearing. However, if they so choose to hold a public meeting, I know it's semantics with the names, they may do so, and I'll leave that up to the court.
I'm comfortable with what we've done. Do we need to have another meeting on it?
It's up to the court.
Then I recommend we pass that.
No way.
Okay.
Okay, let's move to point 126, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to set the date and time for adoption of the 2021 tax rate for Kerr County and lateral roads.
I will leave that to the court and the auditor of when the adoption will be. However, I will need a time designated to place in the notice that I have to publicize.
That's September
13th,
13th? And what time do we want to do it?
9:45.
September 13th at 9:45.
So moved.
Motion is made by Commissioner Letts, seconded by Commissioner Harris, to set September 13 at 9:45 to adopt the 2021 tax rate for Kerr County and lateral roads. Any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Item 1.27, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to take a record vote on the proposed 2021 Lake Ingram Estates Road District tax rate. Mr. Reeves.
Yes, sir. The Lake Ingram Estates Road District is only a taxing entity for a certain group of residents in West Kerr County. There is no maintenance and operations of this road district. It is all for debt service. And the rate that I have calculated for the 2021 taxes would be .1521 per $100 valuation, and this would require a record vote by the commissioners.
I move for approval.
Second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Harris, seconded by Commissioner Letts, to set a tax rate for Lake Ingram Estates Road District at .1521 cents per $100. Dollar valuation.
And Bob, that's only for debt service, is that what you said?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So there's no maintenance?
The roads are county maintained, so
Okay.
therefore any maintenance on the roads comes out of.
And how's that compared to last year?
That is a reduction, will actually save the average homeowner in Lake Ingram Estates $27.89.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand.
Uh,
Oh, record.
Record.
Okay. Okay. Precinct 2,
Yes.
Precinct 3,
Yes.
Precinct 1,
Yes.
Precinct 4.
Yes.
And I vote yes, unanimous, 5-0. Everybody's had a chance to be first but you. 1.28, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to set the date and time to hold a public hearing for the 2021 tax rate for Lake Ingram Estates Road District. Is this optional?
Actually, on this one, Judge, I'd prefer a public hearing, even though the rate I proposed, because it is debt, I would prefer to set a public hearing on this.
Okay.
9/13 at 10, at 9:50, does that work? Make a motion, we set the public hearing at September 13th at 9:50.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Letts, seconded by Commissioner Harris, to set the public hearing for September the 13th at 9:50 a.m. Any discussions?
I have a question, Mr. Reeves. How far into this are they at Lake Hill? Or Lake
I believe
Ingram
there's
State?
another 6 years, is that my
How
understanding?
long was the program?
And it was '02, I think it was a
Yeah.
25-year
These
number.
take a while, so they're getting closer to the end.
They're getting closer to the end. The discussions with the auditor, the principal balance is so low that nobody would look at buying the note and trying to reduce the interest, or it's just not great enough. We're paying $22,000 per year on debt reduction.
This is a success story for people that have a road they'd like to get up to county specs, have the county take it over, pay it off over the long term, and have a decent road they don't have to personally maintain.
That is correct. Commissioner Letts may can answer more, but I forgot how many roads were utilized this way. At one time, there was 6 or 7 road districts, I believe.
We're trying that, and the plus to this is, one, it spreads it out over time, gets the roads put into the county system for those that want it. And over time, as additional homes get built, it tends to lower the rate over from where it was. I think it was originally like at 20 cents or something, 22 cents.
It's been dropping every year. Last year, I believe it was 17 something.
Yeah. It may have been up to close to 30. I mean, there's a limit to how high you can set the tax for yourself, but it's come down quite a bit. And we've also had road districts that have failed. I mean, it's not easy to get them through.
It's hard to get it started.
Sure.
Does it have to be voted on
It's
a
voted-
general election?
It's voted on by the people within the vote, within the.
Yeah, I understand,
tax
but
district.
in a general election, gets
It's like
on the
ESDs.
ballot?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I
Okay.
believe this one,
Yeah,
that
just like
road
ESD.
district, you actually have to hold the election within that small.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Ms. Alford has indicated they've used garages
Yeah,
as
that's right.
polling
They had
places.
to, yeah. I mean, I had one fail by a vote of 5-4,
Hmm.
or 4-5, I think.
Mhm.
There are 2 in precinct 1 right now attempting to launch this.
Right.
And it is an uphill battle.
I've had a couple try, but it's hard.
Okay, any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. 5-0. Item 1.29, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to set the date and time for adoption of the 2021 tax rate for Lake Ingram Estates Road District. Is that needed?
Yes, sir. That will be needed to officially adopt the tax rate.
So we'll do that September
A
13th
little
at
bit.
10 o'clock?
13.
10 o'clock, yeah,
Yes, sir.
Let's stack them up.
or 9:55.
Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Letts, second by Commissioner Harris, to set the hearing for the adoption of the 2021 tax rate for Lake Ingram Estates Road District for September the 13th at 10 o'clock. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Item 1.30, consider, discuss, and approve the appointment of election judges and alternates for the term of 1 year in accordance with the Texas Election Code, Section 32. Do I have to read that in Spanish?
It's up to you, Judge.
Good Lord.
They didn't even get a volunteer.
I don't believe you need
We
to.
never have read them in Spanish.
Okay.
Yes, sir. As you recall, at the last meeting of the court, various precincts, you approved judges and alternates. Some of them had not been named yet. This time I ask the court to approve the additional judges in precinct 113, Jerry Wolf, precinct 404, Barbara Dool, and precinct 417, Bill Fitch.
I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Harris, seconded by Commissioner Baloo to approve the election judges as presented for a one-year term. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action on requests from appointed and elected officials to appoint the clerks and assistants for their offices pursuant to Local Government Code, Chapter 151. This is just something that we asked for, it's been submitted, and we need approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Moser, seconded by Commissioner Baloo, to approve the appointed and elected officials list of appointed clerks and assistants for their respective offices. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Item 1.32, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to surplus certain IT items. Mr. Robles.
Yes, you should have a list like this. This is the items that are being requested to be recycled, various computers, desktops, monitors.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Item 1.33, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to set a date for a workshop to discuss subdivision rules and proposed changes that need to be explored in the development of an advisory committee. When I originally put this on here, I said the development of an advisory committee. I don't know if we really need an advisory committee, but I do want to announce that the three candidates that I interviewed, the finalists for the commissioner's position, all three of them, Kayla Hale, Chris Childs, and Mark Hoffman, all agreed to help advise us if needed on this. They're signing on 100%, so we'll have Beck plus the other three to help us, which is good. We've got a civil engineer, we've got somebody with a lot of water experience, and then we've got a lifetime rancher banker that understands what makes deals work and not. So,
It's always good to have extra sets of eyes.
Judge, I think I believe Charlie went ahead and finalized, based on the session you and I and Charlie had last week, finalized our draft rules. So they're ready to go now. So what we need to do is set the workshop and then have times that we can have Mr. Kimbrough, members of the court, and the county attorney meet, go over them.
the dates we have for Kimbrough are September 8th and September 20th.
Right.
And that's for him to come and give legal advice to the court in executive session. Any other workshops would be public, be open meetings.
And I'm sending the rules back.
Right. And then I think the recommendation would be, I think that we, certain people that you mentioned, and there's several others that we maybe,
We got
reach out to.
Yeah.
Lee Volk will be one, and some others, the surveyors, reach out to get them copies, and then hold a workshop, or receive. I'd almost rather receive written comments back from them. It's probably more productive. But we can handle that. But I think the first step is to have our two workshops with, or two executive session meetings with Mr. Kimbrough.
And so we'd be looking at setting a workshop after we've talked with Mr. Kimbrough?
Yeah, sometime, but I think we need to figure out, we need to get the timetable from him. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah, it gets into a complicated process where we have to do a takings impact assessment also, and I really need to rely on him, I think, to set that schedule once we're comfortable with it.
Everybody knows what a taking impact schedule is, right?
They're what?
What a takings impact
Assessment.
assessment.
That's it. So,
If we do things that take people property away from them without due process of law, we get in trouble.
but I think the other thing is, there are, and we have 2 meetings set up, it may take more than that. I mean, parts of our rules, especially when you get into water, are really complicated. And they're going to stay complicated because our authority, you have to look at the water code, you have to look at some of the TCEQ rules, you have to look at our model rules, you have to look at our regular rules. And you have to look at our water availability requirements. So there's 5 different documents that we really have to look at to figure out where we are, what we can and can't do there. And Attorney General opinions that confuse it even more. So that's, I mean, and then the other areas, I mean, yeah.
So you need
But-
to get back
but-
from Kimbrough to set the date?
Well, we have the dates are set, and Kimbrough is aware of those dates.
No, but I meant the
yeah.
workshop.
Well, we need to wait for that, I think we just meet with Kimbrough for 2 times, and it may take a 3rd meeting with him. Because I think if we go too fast, it gets really complicated. I mean, I understand it, and I'd be glad to do it in one, but I think that it's a disservice to the rest of the court, because.
Well, my goal, my personal goal in doing this, and y'all have heard some of this in the selection process for the commissioner to fill Commissioner Moser's vacancy. I'm really focused on the subdivision rules and the development that is coming to East Kerr County right now. It's happening. We saw it here today. It's happening faster than we can react to it. And everybody on this court needs a refresher course. In my opinion, I need a refresher course. Get us all up to speed so that we really know where we are with all of this. And we get the final version of it that we're most comfortable with at that time, on that date, get it adopted. Because if we start these things under the old rules, we see what happens. We saw that happen here today.
Well, if we already have projects in the works, they have to.
They are under the old rules.
They're under the old rules.
Right.
So.
Right. So we need to get the new rules in place and have a cutoff date.
But there are more coming.
Sir?
There are more coming.
And they're going to, and the fact that the other thing that I think people forget, I forgot until I really sat down and got to thinking about it when I was reading the rules again. We used to have a 3-step process. They'd come to us with the concept plan, and we would approve it. And then there'd be a whole lot of work done, and then they'd come to us with a preliminary plat plan, and we'd approve that. And then there'd be a whole bunch more work done, and they'd come to us with the final, and we'd approve that. And we had, it was almost like a waltz, a 3-step process. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Well, in 2009, the legislature eliminated the preliminary plat phase. So we go from concept to final. And a whole lot of work has to be done between those 2 things. A lot of work and a lot of expense, a lot of money spent. And when they bring that final to us, we now have 30 days to accept it and approve it, or state in detail what it is that we disapprove of and tie it back to what our rules say. And so we get a project like Creekside. You got 1,000 acres, you got a couple of 100 lots, and we've got to make all that decision within one 30-day period of time.
Mm-hmm. And to make it really worse, concept is not required.
I know.
So I mean, really, they can come in and
just plop it on us.
Plot us and say, here, you have 30 days to approve this.
And so
that puts a huge burden on our staff.
Sure. And we've got to be ready. We as a court have to be ready.
Right. And if you don't, it goes.
So that's, we'll come back to that later. Let's move on to item 1.34.
The dates are, what are they, Heather?
September the 8th and September the 20th.
8 and 20. 9, 8, 9, 20. Okay. Are they at 9 o'clock?
Yes. Item 1.34, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to ratify and confirm commercial tenant estoppel certificate for Ingram Annex property located at 3350 Junction Highway in Ingram, Texas. Terry Napper's mom passed away, and he was up at the courthouse. He had sold the property, and he came by to visit with me after court and asked me to sign the estoppel agreement that we still got a lease out there, which I did. And we thought we kept a copy, but we didn't. So what we have to do now is ratify and confirm that we signed the estoppel certificate for him to sell his property.
What's estoppel?
It just says that we got a lease,
Okay.
which we do, and we confirm the terms of the lease. And that way he passes it on to the purchaser, so the purchaser knows what kind of rents he's going to get. And also that authorizes the purchaser to instruct us to send the rent payments to him.
Okay. Very good.
So I'll move that we ratify and confirm that.
Second.
I made the motion, seconded by Commissioner Ballou, to ratify and confirm the commercial tenant estoppel certificate for Ingram Annex. Any discussion?
Yes. Number 3, where it says all repairs to the building. I know we had something come up that has basically been the case for all, nothing major. And a year or two ago, we had something major. You know, the AC unit is a 1980s something model, and Shane and his crew, nobody around here could find a part for it. And went back to Mr. Napper at the time, and he did it. He went out and endured that expense. The way this is written now, anything like that would be ours.
Well, that's what he negotiated with us, remember, when he had us over the barrel?
I didn't think he had all the repairs. I thought it was just what's the word? Minimal maintenance, daily maintenance or routine maintenance, and he had the major, is what I understood before.
Well, that's the way it was before this last one, but when he found out that we were building the annex, that we wanted to build the annex,
yeah, well,
he didn't want to be responsible for anything else.
Well, that's what we got, and that building is getting older by the day. So,
For anyone that doesn't believe we need a new West Kerr County annex, go visit it.
Yeah, that's proof.
It's proof in itself. Okay, so those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? 5-0. Item 1.34, oh no, that was it. 1.34. 1.35, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action on the signature authority for disbursement for the Center Point East Kerr County wastewater project.
I put this on the agenda because we have an internal process where the county engineer, Commissioner Precinct 2, Commissioner Precinct 3, auditor sign it before it heads up to Grant Works. With Commissioner Moser leaving, Commissioner Gibson will be filling that spot. I'm going to change that, put his name on there. I visited with him a little bit, and he wants to be on there to get familiar with that project. But I also think that we need to make a slight modification that if one of the commissioners, either 3 or 4, is not available for an extended period of time, that they can go forward with just one of the signatures.
That's good.
We filled in.
We've done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3, you said 3 or 4?
Yeah, it means 3 or 2.
Precincts.
I mean 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Precincts 2 or 3,
Yeah.
not 4. Sorry.
So moved.
Second.
Good move.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Moser, seconded by Commissioner Letts, to approve the signatory authority for disbursement of the Center Point East Kerr County wastewater project to be for Commissioners Precincts 2 and 3 and together, and only one if the other's not available. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. 5-0. Item 1.36, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding the 2022 Kerr Central Appraisal District budget. This was presented to us by Ms. Constantinides. I said that. That's a hard one to say.
Well, I move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Blue, seconded by Commissioner Letts to approve the KCAD budget. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Unanimous, 5-0.
Abstain.
Oh, 4,
Abstain.
0, 1. 1.37, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve the memorandum of understanding between Ingram ISD and the Kerr County Sheriff's Office. And Sheriff, if we go back to, was it 1.45?
1.45 also, yes.
Let me call it at the same time.
Yes, sir.
And that is to consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve the non-terminal agency agreement between Ingram ISD and Kerr County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Lathrop.
Yes, sir. Okay, good afternoon, Court. All right, what I'm looking for, requesting your approval for this MOU memorandum of understanding with Kerr County Sheriff's Office and Ingram ISD. They've officially started their police department this school year. This will let us be able to work together on different incidents and offenses that happen within the school district. If something was to occur, we would work together and decide who'd be the lead or work it together. This MOU, and also the second one is an agreement for Ingram ISD Police Department to be able to use our communications and run things on a day-to-day basis that they may need it. Both these have been reviewed and approved by the county attorney.
Move for approval.
Second.
This motion is for both of them?
Yes.
Motion's been made to approve the memorandum of understanding between Ingram ISD and Kerr County Sheriff Office and to approve the non-terminal agency agreement between Ingram ISD and the Kerr County Sheriff's Office. Who made the motion? Who made the second? Harris made the motion. Baloo made the second. Any discussions? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Thank you. Both of those. Thank you, Sheriff.
Yes.
1.38, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve a contract with the State Case Registry and Local Customer Service Cooperative Agreement between the Office of the Attorney General of the State of Texas and Kerr County. And upon approval, have the county judge sign the same.
Dawn asked me to be here to present this today, and I reviewed it. It is the same terms of the last agreement we entered into.
I move for approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Harris, seconded by Commissioner Baloo, to approve the State Case Registry and Local Customer Service Cooperative Agreement between the Office of the Attorney General of the State of Texas and Kerr County. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. 1.39, consider, discuss, or take appropriate action to appoint an individual to fill the unexpired term for the Commissioner Precinct 2. I have appointed Beck Gibson, who was here and was hoping to be sworn in today, but CNA has not issued his bond, so we can't swear him in until we get his bond. So we'll do that on another day, but we're going to announce that. And then let's move on to item 1.40. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve the bond for the newly appointed Precinct 2 Commissioner. We'll pass on that because we don't have it to approve. 1.41 is to consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to administer the oath of office, which we can't do because we don't have a bond. And that takes us to item 1.42, comments from Commissioners Court regarding the retirement of Commissioner Mosley. And Tom, I just want to tell you, it's been a pleasure and a challenge in keeping up with you. When I sat in the blue seats out there and got to know you, man of incredible intellect and ability to manage very difficult and complex issues. And it's been a true pleasure working with you. And you're going to be missed. I've gotten used to you.
I thank you for that. Let me reflect on some things, if I may. Started on the category mission accomplished. Okay, this is not bragging rights or victory lap or anything like that. But I think I want to address some things that the court has done in the past 8 years. Number one, we established an emergency management coordinator for the county, which is very, very important. And I think we've seen it through several things here in the last couple of years, how important that is to have a person for the county representing emergency management. And Dub has done a fantastic job. Another thing that we did is we established veteran service officers. We did that on the basis that they will be able to increase the amount of funds received by veterans sufficient to pay for that office. I think that has occurred, so we've done that. East Kerr Center Point wastewater system. Jonathan and Bill Williams began that. Jonathan and I helped instrument it, or in effect push it through. It's going. It's probably 2/3 finished now, according to the money that we've spent, which is a fantastic accomplishment. pass something that hadn't happened in ever, it's alcoholic beverage sales in precinct 2, which I think was a big deal, okay? Took a long time, many starts and stops to get that done. Built a $15 million jail improvement and expansion. Enabled the residents of Kerr County to enjoy the benefits of the library from the city at no charge, no cost to them. Work with long and hard with the airport board and getting that revenue neutral, so we're not contributing $200,000 a year to that. And thanks primarily to the judge and Jonathan establishing the PDO. I think that's going to be a big money saver. And some smaller things is we've put playground equipment in the at the parks, two parks in particular. So I think there's been a lot accomplished over those 8 years, and I think sometimes it pays to just reflect on that. There's many things left to do, but a minor thing which I think is important that I hope Beck can help champion this, and that's get the pathway from Veterans Hospital down to the lake complete. That's not a big deal. I think it's about $30,000 for the county to do that. But then connect that and working with the city so that the veterans can then access the river trail. And that would be a big accomplishment. So that's kind of small, but it's still, I think, extremely important. And the other thing is continuing to push with the city and TxDOT on an alternate route for River Hill Boulevard to eliminate that or reduce greatly that traffic through that community with a dedicated road between Highway 16 and Highway 173. So with those, still major challenges left, but a lot accomplished. So appreciate the work of the court in doing all those things. Wasn't me, it was the whole court doing them all.
So Commissioner Mosier, your fingerprints were all over those accomplishments and those endeavors that are still to go on, and something to be very proud of. I appreciate your service, and I wish you the best in your future endeavors.
Failed retirement again somehow.
Yeah. Wish you the best in your second retirement. But
third.
Yeah, third retirement. But Thomas, I greatly appreciate working with you. Enjoyed it. We got a lot accomplished together. Spent a lot of time in recent years on the wastewater project. Far more. That project ended up being a lot more work than it seemed when we first started the thing some 15 years ago, 10 years ago. Not 15 years ago.
15, I think.
15 years ago. But anyway, good luck. Really enjoyed working with you. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Well, I learned a lot from the beginning, starting with campaigning, and then how to measure out a decision, how to stick with the important stuff, and put the other stuff back, and you might get back to it later, but we've got to do the important stuff first.
Right.
I appreciate that. And I want to tell you, sitting next to this guy and hearing his comments under his breath has been really entertaining. And Beck has a lot to live up to if he's going to come up to Tom Mosier's standard.
I do that because I know the county attorney's looking at me, and we're not supposed to have those sidebar discussions.
So we've had a number of pretty good jokes. But I really appreciate you as a man, Tom.
Thank you.
I know we've got a couple people in the audience that wanted to speak. I know we've got Mark Mosier, and the sheriff was going to say something at some point.
Mark Mosier, representing myself and the Kerr County Airport Board. And words cannot express our gratitude as an airport. You mentioned revenue neutral, but what you don't know is the airport was costing our taxpayers about $500,000 a year, about the time Tom stepped into the leadership position, along with some other strong leaders. And so, what's that, $5 million to date, at least, saved? So, I appreciate that, but it wasn't just about money, it was about setting the standard. I mean, I would have a lot harder job right now if it wasn't for people like Tom Mosier at that time, so I greatly appreciate that. I don't know if I should thank you or blame you, but I met Tom about 10 years ago, and that's why I'm standing here. He sucked me into it. So, as a friend and as the leader of the airport, we thank you. And one thing I've learned about you, Tom, is you never do anything halfway. You don't have an autopilot or cruise control button at all. And when you do finish a project, you're looking for another one. Bird dogging it down, and if somebody can't help you, just get out of your way. So you are a finisher. You love saying mission accomplished. I appreciate that about you. So thank you for what you've done, and thank you for what you're going to do.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
I have a small token appreciation of plat on behalf of the Kerr County Sheriff's Office. I'd like to come take a picture with you. But first of all, as my commissioner, you know, I didn't get a chance to work with you other than about 8 months, but I know you have over 8 years of service. I just want to say I appreciate that. And I know it's a tough job as an elected official. I know we never make everybody happy. You know, we have to make some tough decisions. And, you know, I feel that y'all have a tougher job than I do. Appreciate what you do, and we hope we see you around, Mr. Mosier. Would you? I'll read this back.
I don't know this thing about tougher job.
It's a tougher job. It's right here. Honoring for your service as Kerr County Commissioner Precinct 2 presented to Tom Mosier. In sincere gratitude for over 8 years of guidance and outstanding leadership you provided to the citizens of Kerr County. We, the members of Kerr County Sheriff's Office, present this to you in recognition of many years of sacrifice and service. Good.
Sheriff, you got one over here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Good. Thanks, buddy. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Then we move on to item 1.43, which is to consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to authorize painting and installing security doors for the property located at 550 Earl Garrett.
Yeah, and I'm not positive this has to be on the agenda. We've talked about a lot of these improvements, but kind of a little bit update as to where we are. We were going to talk about putting the flooring in right now and painting. Doors came up also, things that we needed to do some security doors. I got with Shane, I got with John Bull, the auditor, county attorney, and I don't want to, and John doesn't want to wait to move in there for us to go out for bid, delay this another 2 months. He's comfortable moving in as is almost. Our goal.
What kind of expense is this?
All of those together would be about $75,000. The biggest portion of that, about almost $50,000 of that, is the new flooring. I think we need to do it, but it can be done next year. He's comfortable in doing it once they're moved in. It'll be a little bit of an inconvenience, but it's just the way it's going to be.
But it sounds like the security doors would be more important than anything.
Well, they're going in pretty quick. Security doors are internal to keep people from being able to access. Each of the corridors or halls will be blocked off on each end. And then the painting, I've already pretty much, Shane's lined up. They're going to start tomorrow. And they're going to go, we talked to John, he didn't have any problem with it. They're going to go ahead and have basically 24 access to that building to get the job done as quick as possible. The idea is that both of these items approved. The flooring will come back next year as a budget item, and the goal is to have them being PDO into that building as close as we can to September 1st. And it'll maybe probably that week sometime. Vanessa's working on moving furniture up from Medina. We also have some local furniture that will be moving to that building, but if we want to get this done. Met with Bruce last week with John and some of his staff, and they figured out exactly where they want the phone drop, so that's being done right now too. So anyway, these two items, we've talked about them. I'm not sure we ever approved them. It's not really in Shane's budget, so I thought it was safest for us to go ahead and approve the two items that are attached. One of them is for the new security doors, which is $15,180, and then for the painting is $18,480. Make a motion to approve those two items.
Does it come out of grant money, or where does it come out?
It comes out of the, Penny, what do you,
It's the capital improvement.
Okay.
it comes in the money that we have for that building. Set aside for that building.
Okay, did we get a motion and a second?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. And then 1.44, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve contract with Ring Central for telephone services for the Hill Country Regional Public Defender's Office located at 550 Earl Garrett.
I can speak to this if you'd like me to.
Yes.
I worked with, I worked with Vanessa to get the right terms in this agreement for government entities, and I've approved it.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the phone system as recommended.
Okay. Second? Okay. Motion was made by Commissioner Letts, seconded by Commissioner Harris, to approve the HCR PDO contract with Ring Central. Any discussion?
Just a quick comment is, it's a system that has a lot of bells and whistles, and I think Bruce is going to be looking at it really closely to see how it actually works. If it works the way it's been sold and they're saying, and they've tested it, maybe something we want to apply to other areas of the county.
This is the system. Who's the service carrier?
Ring Central.
They do all of it.
Yep.
But it has access with your phones, and you can transfer it, it can port. It's pretty neat system, so they're happy with it.
Okay, any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. 5-0. Okay, before we get to the approval agenda, the information agenda, and executive session, let's take about a 5-minute break, and I need to get clarified on some things. What we're going to do is, it turns out that I bet Gibson did get his bond. He went over to shook the tree till it fell out. So we're going to do the swearing in anyway. But we'll do that right before we go into executive session. At this time, I'm going to go back and pick up the approval agenda 2.1, which is to pay the bills.
Invoices for today's consideration, $598,840.58.
Move for approval.
Second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Moser, seconded by Commissioner Letts, to pay the bills as presented. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. 2.2, budget amendments.
Yes, we have 9. These are line item transfers within their department. Road and Bridge, non-departmental, County Jail, 198th District Court, Parks Maintenance, Sheriff, Animal Control, Indigent Services, and Ag Extensions Office.
I move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Harris, seconded by Commissioner Letts, to approve the budget amendments as presented. Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. 2.3, late bills.
Yes, there were $3,600 in invoices for your approval.
I move for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Harris, seconded by Commissioner Blue, to approve the late bills as presented. Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. 2.4, auditor reports.
Yes, the auditor's office performed internal audits for justices of the peace, precinct 3 and 4, the treasurer, and animal control. We are requesting that you accept the reports.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Letts, seconded by Commissioner Harris, to approve the auditor reports as presented. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. 2.5, accept monthly reports.
Yes, third quarter investment report for April to June 2021. County Treasurer Tracy Solden. July 2021 monthly reports. County Treasurer Tracy Solden. Constables Precinct 2, Kyle Snyder. Precinct 3, Paul Gonzalez. Animal Control Services, Director Reagan Gibbons. Fines, judgments, jury fees collected, JP1, Mitzi French. I move for approval.
Second. Third.
Motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Blue, to approve the monthly reports as presented. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. 2.6, court orders.
We have court orders from August 9th, 38844 through 38875. We have court orders from August 16th, 38876 through 38878. We also have court orders from our August 18th meeting, 38879 through 38883. There are some recommended changes I have on court order 38880. This is related to our paid time off. I recommend we add the language to that and rescind court order 38834. A little bit confusing. There was another one, we did pass it. We never approved the court order for the previous action we took, but we did take action in court for that previous court order. So I think we need to be real clear that we're rescinding that previous court order. Other on 38881, this is related to, we made an addendum to the compensation salary recommendations, and I added the language here, which added an employee that was inadvertently left off in the previous court order. All we did was just add one employee to that new one. And then on court order 38882 is related to the hiring of a new extension agent, and the agenda item is listed, but the actual motion was not on the court order that was sent out. So we added that language, which is approved hiring Justin Blinksick as new Kerr County Ag Extension Agent, and his salary will be determined by the Texas AgriLife Extension Office. So with those changes, move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Letts, second by Commissioner Harris, to approve the court orders as modified and presented. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. Moving on to information agenda, 3.1, status reports from department heads. 3.2, status reports from elected officials. 3.3, status reports from liaison commissioners. Okay, with that, what I'm going to do is we're going to go back to item 1.39, and we're going to through 1.42, or 1.41 with regard to the new commissioner. And then I'm going to end and go back to item 1.5, which are the bids that we got on the grant administration, and then we'll go into executive session after that. So just give you an idea of what we're going to do. So we're going to take care of the ceremony of getting our new commissioner sworn in, then we're going to get ready to go into executive session and finish up our grant administration issues. So with that, let me go ahead and call item 1.39, which is to consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to appoint an individual to fulfill the unexpired term for Commissioner Precinct 2, being vacated by Commissioner Moser. I've issued a press release that I'm appointing Beck Gibson. I think he's the right man at the right time. One of the things that I'm looking at is we've got a lot of work to do between now and November of 2022. And with a heavy field and a lot of enthusiasm in that race, I figure whoever's actually running for that job is going to be preoccupied with their campaign more than trying to do the work of this court. And that's the reason that I have appointed Beck. I've known Beck for 30 years, something like that. In fact, I can remember I met him. He was an expert witness on the other side of a lawsuit. That's how far we go back. But Beck has an outstanding skill set to bring to the table to help us. He's probably the go-to person in Kerr County with regard to real estate. He's an appraiser, and has been an appraiser for, I don't know, 40, maybe 40 plus years. Let's just say that. And one of my favorite stories about Beck is when my late wife died, and she wanted me to put that old historic house that we had over there on Water Street into the hands of a family that would love it as much as she did. And I didn't know exactly how to do that. And so I hired the most trusted appraiser that I knew, Beck Gibson, and asked him to appraise my house with the understanding that I was going to sell it for exactly what his appraisal was, not a penny less and not a penny more. And I did not list the property with a broker. I took his appraisal, and people around town, and a lot of people are interested in that old historic house. And I interviewed families for about 2 months. And I would give them a copy of his appraisal and tell them that's what I'm going to sell it for, not a penny more, not a penny less. And most of them tried to negotiate with me, and it was non-negotiable. Beck said it, it was, that was it. And then finally, Jay and Rhea Henderson, Jay's our attorney on the opioid litigation, they came in with her mother, and they fell in love with the house, and that's who we sold it to, and that family is still there, happy in that house, and I sold it for exactly what he told me it was worth.
Good story.
So with that, I'll go on to item 1.40, which is to consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve the bond for the newly appointed Precinct 2 Commissioner, which, by the way, I had to send him out of the courthouse to run down the street to Garrett Insurance to get it. Get back here. So we have it. And I'll move that we approve the bond.
Second.
Okay. Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Now we go to item 1.41. And this is to actually administer the oath of office. Let me get those from the clerk. We'll step down here. And Beck, if you would, identify who you have with you.
I have my daughter, Krista Roberts.
And your family Bible.
It's in your office.
Okay.
Krista, how you doing? It's so weird of you. Her son plays baseball.
Oh, okay.
So we spend a lot of time together for condensed periods of time, and all of a sudden then we don't see each other as much.
Okay. I am proud to do this, Beck. If you would, please raise your right hand. I state your name.
Thomas Becker Gibson.
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
County Commissioner Precinct 2 of Kerr County,
County Commissioner Precinct 2
of Kerr County,
of Kerr County,
of the state of Texas,
of the state of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve,
preserve,
protect,
protect,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and of this state.
and of this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Taking that oath before, haven't you?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Come on up, Kristen. Kristen.
Put a little glamour in this.
Do you have a phone you want me to take? Actually, yes.
Oh. There we go.
Well,
it's
a
for our
new
daughters,
generation.
we understand.
Just email them. You were supposed to do that. There's a sidebar comment again.
Yeah.
Give another one and smile. Okay.
You get your shot?
Yeah. Right.
Put one under the wire.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're now officially Commissioner Precinct 2.
Get up
You got
here.
some paperwork you gotta sign over
Now you get to vote. Judge, give me my name back here, will you? Oh, Judge. There we go. Bye.
I'll call you.
Don't forget your glasses.
We've got some paperwork over here for you to sign before you get away.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I forgot to tell you the most important thing about that is his father wrote "Oh Yeller." Believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Judge.
Do you ever get introduced where that isn't mentioned?
One question, please.
I tried. I almost got away with it.
For 40 years, I've had to work with him professionally. Do I have to be nice to him now?
He's an appointed official now. You do what you
I
want to
know.
Okay. What we're going to do, and Tanya, did you get a copy of the
Yes,
Callie?
Callie has that.
Callie, do you have them?
I do.
Let me go ahead and call 1.5 again. And just to let you know, when I read this off, I'll tell you what we're really doing. 1.5 is to consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to select administration project delivery service provider to complete the project implementation of the American Rescue Plan and funding administered by the federal government. What we're doing, this is the selection of the grant administrator for our ARPA funds, which we have $10.2 million that have been awarded to us in the American Rescue Plan. And it's a very complicated process to do all of these things, and so we're hiring a grant administrator to do that. And we put it out for public bid, and we got the bid deadline was last Friday at 1, and we met and scored we got 2 bids, met and scored them, that's the item that we need to talk about in executive session, because of the opinion that we got from the county attorney that as it relates to item 1.5 on today's agenda, an open meeting would be detrimental to the court's negotiations on the matter. So with that, we're going to, I need to announce who the bids were. And Callie, if you could go ahead and do that for us. Don't tell us amounts, we'll talk about that in private.
Absolutely. We received 2 bids from Langford Community Management Services and GrantWorks.
And so with that, we're going to adjourn into executive session, and we should be out shortly. And we are now back in open session. And the next item on the agenda is for 5.1, action required on matters discussed in executive session. I will make a motion. We've reviewed the bids from Langford and from Grant Works, and I will make a motion that we accept the proposal from Grant Works in the amount of $408,640, which represents 4% of the contract.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 5-0. We have hired Grant Works as our grant administrator. And just as a closing anecdote, when I was at the community leadership conference last Thursday morning to see how we were doing on our COVID situation, when they called on me to report where the county was, I told them that we were scoring we already sent out the request for proposals on the grant administration, because if you recall, some people have talked in the paper about we better get this done quickly. Well, it's done. But I reported that we had already submitted the RFPs, that we were going to open them at 1 o'clock the next day, last Friday, and score them, and had it on the agenda for Monday. And I turned around, and Corey Edmondson was sitting right behind me, and he said, "Wow." And I said, "Well, I apologize for how slow county government moves." And he says, "That's the fastest I've ever seen a county move." And so we now officially have our grant administrator, and we will start working on these ARPA funds. So with that, we are adjourned.